Hello and welcome to Hindsighting, where we discuss all the movies to win the Best Picture Oscar and try to figure out if this picture truly is the best, or is time rendered a different verdict. I'm Edward Clow. My guest today is a writer, producer who in television has written for Disney, USA Network, and Prime Video, where he is a co-showrunner, co-creator, and executive producer of 2025's Clean Slate, Norman Lear's final comedy, starring Laverne Cox and George Wallace. He also created Paramount's feature Playing with Fire, starring John Cena, and the Jack Black vehicle Dear Santa. He has 74 things in various stages of development, 3 of which may ever become a real thing. Boy, ain't that the way it is. Dan Ewen, welcome to Hindsighting.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I find the premise of this podcast wildly intriguing.
Oh,
and so
great.
I've enjoyed it, and it's fun to be here.
Damn, I'm very excited to have you. Today we're hindsighting the Best Picture of 1989, Driving Miss Daisy. From 9 nominations, it also won Oscars for Best Actress, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Makeup. It was nominated against Born on the 4th of July, Dead Poets Society, Field of Dreams, and My Left Foot. So Dan, we're similar in age, and I think the 80s was an incredible decade. I really do. And I think what was so incredible about it is every genre was really well served. I think the 80s is the best decade ever for action movies. I think it is the best decade ever for comedies. A lot of people would argue it's one of the best, if not the best decade for horror. I also think we have a lot of adult dramas. We have dramas are prevalent and they're for grown-ups and they're successful. The only thing you could say, and I've said this a million times, is, you could argue that, well, not you could argue, Westerns and musicals aren't really a thing in the 80s, but Westerns and musicals die and come back and die and come back. And they just were, there's only one Clint Eastwood Western in all of the 80s, Pale Rider, which is right in the middle. But we've seen even in just the 2020s, musicals die and come back and die and come back. So that's always a thing. And what's amazing to me is that for the most part, all these movies are from major studios. Independent film, I've been saying actually this whole season, independent film is going on, but it doesn't really pop until the year that we're talking about, 1989. Sex Lies, Do the Right Thing, you can argue, is independent, even though Universal does distribute it. So this is the year where Sundance pops, mainly because of Sex Lies and also the Cannes Film Festival. But so I want to ask you, because you lived through it, as did I. When you think of 80s movies or movies made in the 80s, what do you think about?
Well, there is that built-in bias that as the things that were in pop culture as we came of age,
sure,
we paint in this glowing light, because God, we're discovering who we are, and
right.
and the movies that resonated with us are kind of a touchstone to who we are personally. But I do have some vindication, and this came with parenting, as my children began to see some of these formative movies. And I thought they were kind of an objective jury when they said, "Oh, that's amazing."
Yeah.
Because they don't have that.
Yeah.
And they have articulated that they've said, "Oh, we're in the wrong generation."
Have they really?
They've said that, and by the way, that goes musically as well, like music taste wise.
Sure.
And so it makes me feel slightly less like an old man yelling at clouds, or get off my lawn guy, when young people are saying, "Oh, okay, wow, there's nothing like this today." Oh wow, this is so. I do think the 80s. And maybe to some degree we need to thank the CIA and Ronald Reagan, because whatever we were pushing up against artistically, there are a lot of papers by people way smarter than I am about what happens with the arts. The more there's a repressive or oppressive regime in place, that there's something we're pushing against. We're looking for truth. We're looking for heart. We're looking for, in a time that may have been considered more heartless or more about Wall Street. Wall Street.
Wall Street. Wall Street. No, Wall Street's part of this, both the movie and Wall Street itself.
Wall Street versus Main Street.
Yeah.
A cornfield in Iowa turning into like a baseball.
Yeah.
Iowa. Cornfields. Like, this is Americana. And so there's a pushback against something, the way artists tend to do, and maybe it's somewhat subversively. Oh no, this is about something so much more. So much the art that was made was about so much more. Look at the freaking Goonies, the core of Goonies is a foreclosure on a house.
Do your kids like the Goonies?
Love Goonies.
Uh-huh.
They hold it. Yeah, exactly. They love Goonies.
Right.
And anything, maybe I would say what's funny is probably their closest thing to Goonies is Stranger Things, which is an unabashed attempt to be the Goonies.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny because my daughter, who's younger than your kid, she's 10, but she's currently watching Stranger Things, but she's seen the Goonies, and I took her to see E.T. about 4 or 5 months ago. I showed her Jaws last year, and Jaws 2 and Jaws 3. 4 I'm gonna get to. She's like, "Daddy, I know 4 is bad, but I want to finish it." I'm like, "I get it. Like, you're a completist, you know." But
Yeah.
so it's interesting because I often worried, as somebody who grew up in the 80s, as did you. Somebody said this great thing, and I think it was sort of centered around Stranger Things, that this person, and I can't credit who it was, I can't remember. Their concern was that we were selling our nostalgia to a younger generation. But I think there's an 80s nostalgia. There's a huge 90s nostalgia now. Like, young people who were like watching Friends. Like, I remember years ago, somebody, I don't know, way younger than me said, "Oh, I really love Friends." And I was like, really? Like, it's not boring or just so tone deaf to like what, and Friends is so popular to this day. Or I don't know if it ever went away, but there's this real 90s interest from people who weren't even born in the 90s. And I can relate because when I was a kid, you know, I like movies from the 60s and the 50s, and I often said what your kids say is, "Oh man, I was born in the wrong era." And that's such a thing about aging and just
Yeah.
generations, that, like, Woody Allen made a really great movie, Midnight in Paris, and that's like what it's about, is that everybody thinks that they were born in the wrong generation.
Right.
And I think that's
Right.
very insightful. And he's not the only one to make that insight, but I just thinking that just popped into my head as like a good movie about that. This idea that, like, oh, if I could go back in time, I'd be happier, or I'd be more. I mean, I don't think your kids are saying that, but it's interesting that it extends to music too, because I love 80s music.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. I mean, it would say 80s music, and obviously 90s music. I will go see these kid band recitals, and they're going from Radiohead into REM.
That's amazing.
Into it's very interesting, and it does make me wonder, and I'm gonna straighten my beret here as I talk about late stage capitalism and blah blah blah.
That's
But like
fine.
regurgitation rather than what is the original idea. I mean, we live in a time of regurgitation,
Yeah.
where it feels like it's hedging of bets. Oh well, this was popular in 1993. Now we need to redo that. This was popular. That we need to we need to find out what's the prequel to that. What's the sequel to that? What's the
IP.
spinoff of that? What's
Yeah.
all right in the IP? And I understand it's, you feel like you're hedging bets. Oh, there's already, they've laid some groundwork for this. Like so I understand why it exists, but I think that there is. And how often do we hear about, oh, this song became popular again because of TikTok? Oh, wow, is Billy Joel's Vienna suddenly number 3 on the Billboard charts?
Right.
Like, oh, because we're living in this regurgitation culture. So what is the culture now? And again, I'm turning into get off my lawn guy, but
Yeah.
but I see in my children a dissatisfaction
Oh, really?
with the culture, with what is their culture, because so much of it is regurgitative.
That's interesting.
If regurgitative is an actual word.
It's okay. We'll make it a word. We just
feels like
decided
it
it's a word.
should.
It's a word.
Regurgitate, regurgitation, regurgitative.
It's not like I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So
You're not
that's
going,
that's really
I'm like, well, I don't know what you're
that's
saying. Dan.
really. But the 80s, I don't know if you go back and think how many people in the 80s in the exec rooms at the studios and all that were thinking, gosh, what from the 70s do we need to retread?
Yeah.
What's from the 70s do we need to bring back, you know? And so I think that was it was what's new things. And obviously it was people like Spielberg and people just, just saying, no, this is original stuff is key.
Yeah, and Spielberg, there's a big Spielberg narrative in the 80s, and the only other filmmaker, I'd even argue, I made this point on our 86 episode, the only other filmmaker who arguably made as big an impact, possibly even more, is John Hughes. In terms of
Yes, 100%.
what we think of, because when I say 80s movies, I think a lot of people, depending on their age, will think of 16 Candles and Breakfast Clubs and Ferris Bueller as like 80s movies. They might not think about Raging Bull and Gandhi and these movies that that were released in the 80s, but you just don't think of as 80s movies because they're not contemporary. And so That's not true of any other decade, I don't think.
What I hate is there was never a Gandhi 16 Candles mashup where suddenly the nerds wander through the background. It just didn't, historically, it didn't match up.
No.
Because one was, a true historic. Yeah, that's a shame because even just a cross in the background
we may get
of
that.
Anthony Michael Hall holding those panties. I'm just saying it would have been mind blowing, and I guess with CGI and AI, all things are possible. And we can start the mashup possibilities.
Oh my God, you may get that movie,
Await
Dan.
us.
In fact, the next time you're on this show, you may be promoting that movie. It's like, oh, Ed, the thing I've joked about, like last year,
Yeah.
like I'm doing it now. It's done. But yeah, I think it's really interesting that your children feel, so I don't want to put words in their mouths. They feel like the current culture is anonymous or not doesn't have a personality.
It's a little amorphous.
Amorphous.
It's a little
That's a better
amorphous.
word.
It's so perfectly coiffed and marketed, and God, I'm gonna say my fake word again, regurgitative.
Yeah.
And there's so much music that this is disco.
Yeah. Yeah, my kids are, my daughter likes, Taylor Swift and Sabrina Carpenter and Olivia Rodrigo and so I'll hear that we're in the car together, and I'm not as knowledgeable about music as I am about movies, but I can only come at it as like, oh, when I was a kid, these are the bands that I listened to, and as I got older, these are the bands that I listened to. So I can't speak to that, but it's really interesting that your kids who are much older, that they feel a contemporary dissatisfaction.
They do feel that. Now maybe I've got evil hipster children. I do.
I was going to ask you, do their friends
older things? Now some of their friends are way more into Taylor Swift is this, and listen to Sabrina and listen to all that. But at least their lenses, their little hipster lenses are. Okay. What am I doing here? What are we listening to here? Why is artist X considered a good songwriter? Have they ever heard?
Interesting.
And so I either brainwash them beautifully.
Yeah.
But they have in their groups of friends seek good stuff. So outside of the norm stuff. And I do more than ever. It's what sound worked, what sound sold the last time, regurgitate that. What sound sold, let's regurgitate that. And so it's an interesting, I think it's more than ever, the bean counters are winning over the creatives.
Yeah. And I always want to, I've said this on another podcast, and it bears repeating. I think everything bears repeating, as devotees of this show will know. I always want to say to the bean counter, to the executives, is that, original ideas are just Star Wars that you haven't met yet. Like Star Wars, it's hackneyed to say, but it is true. Every studio turned down Star Wars because they were just like, what the fuck is this? Alan Ladd Jr. over at Fox was like, okay, he put his faith in George Lucas. He's like, okay, I liked his last movie, and obviously the rest is history. But if you were to come up with, now there's a frame of reference. So like if you came up with a sci-fi world, somebody could be like, oh, this could be Star Wars or Dune or something. But there was nothing like that for Star Wars. And I'm not like Johnny Star Wars. I like it, but I'm not like, I don't know the names of the planets and stuff. I've seen the movies. I'm not like, we know each other a long time. You know what my franchise is that I'm hardcore about? It's not Star Wars. No. Like it, grew up with it. My relationship to it is probably very similar to yours.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like, that was an original idea. Indiana Jones was an original idea, obviously influenced by things. And I always look at it almost like a Ponzi scheme. Like if you keep remaking stuff, you're going to run out of things to remake. It's like musical chairs. Like you're going to eventually, because if you remake this thing that you remade like 5 years ago, that's old, or it's too new. Like there's only so much stuff.
Right, but that cycle's getting shorter and shorter.
I know.
Now here's but you don't underestimate the power of diving back into an IP.
No.
Prequel, sequel,
right,
spin-off, young blank.
Yeah.
Young Ross, young Rachel, young. It is an endless resource.
Yeah.
If they so choose, and thank God for something like the Gosling movie, which is an original.
Project Hail Mary.
Right. Sorry. Yes. Project Hail Mary.
No, it's came up just last night.
Which in the IP world, the project itself was almost a Hail Mary. It's a well named,
yes.
And
no, it
for
is.
that to be as big as it
Yeah.
is huge.
Yeah.
Originals, when an original pops through,
Yeah.
and it is sad. You look at the box office totals for the end of the year and you see, wow, 8 out of those 10 were sequels. 8 out of those 10
Yeah. And
were just
climbing.
mining a thing. And so, I think part of looking back fondly on the 80s and the 90s too there were is that creatives were steering still.
Yeah.
Creatives were steering still.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, because we're in this rabbit hole, and then I want to move on to Driving Miss Daisy. But we're here, and you know, I want to stay here for a second. So we're having this conversation. I think tomorrow is the vote on whether this merger is going to happen. This Paramount WB merger. Obviously, by the time this episode airs, that will have already happened. So I'm not going to speculate as to if that's going to happen or not. It most likely will. But somebody said, and I think this is an idea. This could be wishful thinking, that there was this letter that 100+ creative signed, speaking out against this merger. Really big names. Um, I don't know how many signatures. It was like 112 and probably growing. Could these people, and this is not a conspiracy theory, I'm saying this is going to happen. This is just like, what do you think of this idea? And maybe this is a thought you've had yourself. Could these people, these A-listers who are all millionaires and some of them are billionaires, could they make a new United Artists? I don't mean United Artists literally, but United Artists back in 1919, as you know, Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith decided to make a studio of their own to escape the very thing that we're talking about over 100 years later. It's very easy for me to say, make your own studio, but I do wonder if either A, something like that could happen, or B, a sort of new Hollywood comes out of this. Because in the 60s, the studio system was dying. They were investing in a lot of musicals that like people just didn't want to see. Like after Sound of Music, it's like, hey, to your point, let's make a big shit musical because Sound of Music if you account for inflation, Sound of Music made, I think, almost $1 billion. Just an insane amount of money. So everybody followed that trend. That's nothing new. But by the end of the 60s, only 4 or 5 years later, people were like, no. Like, these movies are long, they're boring. And what comes out of that is studios saying, well, let's let these kids with the beards, Easy Rider, which is sort of outside that. But, so I guess I'm wondering two things, like, or really just one thing. Could a new Hollywood emerge from this moment that we're in now, where the studios are just done rolling the dice on anything original, which has been that way for a long time? Do you think that's possible, likely? Do I need to get my head out of the clouds? What do you think? Have you had any thoughts like that, or?
No, well, the as it stands right now, Brad Pitt has not allowed his face to be scanned where they can just make Brad Pitt movies without him even reporting to set.
Right.
There's still a power to the very famous actors were they to gravitate toward people who are making original things. There could be some sort of, I don't know if there's anything as official as United Artists, you know what I mean? But but gravitate toward the people who are refusing to go with that current, refusing to the insane consolidation of all decision making. I was joking with someone recently. It's going to make pitching a lot easier when you just go to one Wizard of Oz style behemoth, and then they drop your idea into a Plinko thing, and it bounces down and lands at one of the 20 outlets that that one place controls, and that's the scariest part. They could gravitate toward people that are doing cool shit,
right?
But the people this is the weirdest thing about the time we're currently living in. There has never been someone in power, there's never been a leader of the free world who will stop mergers from happening because he disagrees with someone on enter X cultural thing.
Yeah.
So the problem is these things cost a lot of money to make. Movies cost a lot of money to make. Shows cost a lot of money to make.
Right.
So who can make those, who also isn't worried about their merger not happening
Right.
eventually,
Right.
or that the FCC suddenly investigates them
Right.
because they made an attempt to, hey, you know what? We don't have a lot of minorities working here. Let's try and do better on that front and
Right.
get literally fined for that, or preventing this is a wildly political time.
Absolutely.
Where someone is trying to control culture, and not like in the Tipper Gore put a label on a thing way.
No.
That's child's play compared to I'm willing to stop or allow billion-dollar mergers.
Yeah.
If they allow censorship to be included in it, if they allow a person in-house to decide, what this person says here is a little too political. Here's a silly little thing. Sidebar, I'm vegan. I've been vegan since I was 17.
Yeah.
You know why I went vegan? Freaking City Slickers.
Oh, that's right. You told me that.
City Slickers.
Yeah.
A studio comedy.
Yeah.
Where the entire twist is, I'm sorry, your cattle drive vacation is over. Wait, why is it over? We're supposed to take them back to the ranch again. Because the price of beef has gotten so high, we're slaughtering the herd.
Yeah.
You're what? And the cowboy's like, where do you think all that meat in your grocery store comes from?
Yeah.
I do not believe that's the twist in a version of City Slickers that gets made today. And we're talking about a relatively silly studio freaking comedy.
It was a big hit, though.
It was a big hit.
Yeah.
It was a big hit.
Yeah.
I believe someone worried about the political ramifications.
You mean back in 1991?
No, I mean right now.
Oh, right now. Okay.
I think it's a really it's so I'm so rambling.
No,
I really
ramble.
should have worn a beret today.
No, it's okay.
When you talk about and you can cut it. Obviously, you can play with it. Whatever.
No.
But to me, yes, stars, the people in front of the camera, where it's currently not legal to steal their faces. You can do it. They have that fight with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, which is just to show what a technology could do. You cannot use their likeness yet.
Yeah.
Just willy-nilly to create things. So if they have a lot more power, I'm in a writers guild. Like, we just got some protections extended if the vote passes, and all that. But the real power is you can't use my face.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling, who is the star of a mega hit that's an original idea, you can't use my face.
Yeah.
So he has currency to say, I want to work with that company and that's showing a commitment to original ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's a version where A24 starts popping off big movies that are good.
Yeah.
Maybe A24 starts making the movies that studios used to make for adults.
That's what I'm wondering. If there's like I'm wondering if these smaller companies like Neon and A24 and some companies we haven't even heard of yet. I also heard that Warner Brothers is starting, and this might prove to be erroneous, so if it is, I'll cut this out, is doing like an indie arm like we used to have in the early 2000s, and that Sean Baker's working with them. I don't know if it's micro budget, but I don't think Sean Baker's doing a $300 movie now, $300 million movie now. I think he's going to, I'm sure he likes more resources, and maybe he'll level up a little from where Nora was, but I think he still likes to have the control that he had over his other movies. So that's a very good sign, and that's part of this merger, and maybe David Ellison will decide, okay, well, these are small movies, and if they're good and get Oscar nominations, that's good for my bottom line. The way that Fox Searchlight has been largely unfucked with by Disney, because and I worried about that. Disney looks at it as like, okay, that's their thing, and we've got enough going on, and those movies are typically good, typically get Oscar nominations, which might raise our stock a little bit. So those are sunnier moments that I have in all this.
What they need to see the glory in making a $30 million movie that made 80 and won awards. Well, instead of, we need to make Rush Hour 9 and make $700 million.
Well,
because I understand, fiscally, why that's the holy grail is let's just keep mining that. But to see the beauty of, it's a lot of hard work to make a movie. It's a lot of hard work to piece it together and all that. And so to spend 30, what did you spend on advertising? Yeah. Well, it made 85. It could win Best Picture. I don't know what the numbers ended up being for Best Picture. Come on,
One Battle After Another.
Yeah, One Battle After Another. What do the numbers end up being for that? From the bean counter perspective, right? It can reign awards, and that's the thing. But if A24 are a place that with an established track record of telling amazing stories, part of their mission statement, it seems, is these are amazing stories that are done indie style. If A24 made Chaplin, they would have nothing to apologize for. An amazing, beautiful biopic.
Oh wow, Chaplin. Yeah, I like Chaplin.
I'm just throwing out a.
I like Chaplin.
What's something that a studio made when they made more things for adults?
Yeah. Chaplin is a good example.
You know,
it's a random example, but I love it.
A24 pops off a little bit more artsy version of like Steel Magnolias. Nothing to apologize for.
Right.
Maybe the places that make movies for adults are going to change.
Okay.
And we as audience members need to go see those movies.
Absolutely.
So when the audiences go in droves to go see Gosling in an original, it's so important.
It is important. And I'll use that Steel Magnolias to do a double segue into our movie today, because it's the same year and it takes place in the South. So let's move on to Driving Miss Daisy. But first, some trivia and stats. Jessica Tandy won the Best Actress Oscar for her role as Daisy Worthen. At age 81, she's the oldest winner of a Best Actress Oscar. She was the oldest winner for a competitive Oscar until 2012, when Christopher Plummer won Best Supporting Actor for Beginners at the age of 82. Plummer is still the oldest acting winner and nominee. He was nominated for All the Money in the World at age 88. He was later usurped by James Ivory, who won the Best Adapted Screenplay Oscar for Call Me By Your Name at the age of 89. So,
wow.
We're talking numbers. Here's some numbers.
Wow.
Here's some elderly people making awards history. Morgan Freeman originated the role of Hoke in the off-Broadway production of the play, which I didn't know, which makes sense. This film is the only adaptation of an off-Broadway production ever to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. Something else I didn't know. This is only one of 6 movies to win Best Picture without also being nominated for Best Director. The others are Wings in 1927, Grand Hotel in 1932, Argo, Green Book, and Coda. And if you like that stat, you're in for one hell of a shock when I cover Grand Hotel down the line. That's going to be, your head's going to explode. This is the second of only 2 Best Picture winners to have been adapted from plays that won the Pulitzer Prize. The first was You Can't Take It With You, which won way back in 1938. I brought this stat up before. It's kind of a funny one. This is one of 3 Warner Brothers movies in a row where the Best Picture winner co-starred Morgan Freeman. The other 2 are Unforgiven and $1 Million Baby. So they had 3 in a row. He was in all 3. At 1 hour and 39 minutes, it is number 3 in ascending length of Best Pictures. Number 4, if you count Sunrise, which we'll litigate if that counts in a later episode. It is number 37 on the box office list of Best Picture winners with a worldwide gross of $145 million. So, Dan, the last time I watched this movie, I'm pretty sure was the last time or the last trip that I saw my father. My father, I didn't watch it with him. I watched it with my mom. But it was so it was late 2019. So not a terribly long time ago. And that was the first time I'd seen it, at least all the way through, and I don't know how long. So my familiarity with this movie is not super great. For instance, I forgot that when she crashes the car, that's like kind of a cold open. I forgot that, I knew I remember the premise, that she couldn't drive. I forgot that there was an incident, that like something happened, which makes total sense, that like prompted like, oh, she can't drive. And, so that was just, that's, the open is, the open's effective. It sets up really quickly. And I think it's kind of funny and intentionally so that like the car crashes and then it's like Driving Miss Daisy, like the title comes.
Yeah.
In. I think that's supposed to be like kind of a cute joke.
100%. 100%. Well, it was interesting. In a few different places, it was nominated as a drama comedy and described as a drama comedy. I mean, if you, in the comedy world, I guess 3 funny things happening is a comedy.
Would you consider this a comedy? I wouldn't. I would call this a drama with like a really, there's a lot of humor in it.
Yeah, there's some, it's a kind of 2 very opposite people crammed together in a car. It's got the funny moments,
right?
It's got the funny moments, but I wouldn't, necessarily call it. But I remember just looking at what things it was nominated for in various award shows and all that.
Oh,
I saw it as
Globes
drama comedy, or I saw it described as a drama comedy, and I just thought, okay, well, I guess it's funnier than Born on the 4th of July.
Yes. Which this movie shares the same production designer. That blew my mind.
Amazing.
Yeah, Bruno Rubeo. It's not shocking. I just in terms of both these movies coming out so close together.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know if that's a record breaker. I'm sure there's production designers who have done more than one Best Picture
Yeah.
nominee. But it's just interesting that the same guy did both.
So Bruno was busy during those.
Bruno was busy
years.
during, yeah, and he's a very well-regarded production
Yeah.
designer. But when I saw the opening credits, I just wrote down, oh, because I just rewatched Bourne last week,
Right.
so it was fresh in my mind. Meaning I just looked at the credits and stuff. So I might not have, if I had not rewatched the two movies so close together, that might have just completely zipped over my head.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Driving Miss Daisy, I will go ahead and say it was not the best movie of 1989.
That's fine.
I'm fascinated by how votes are split, and occasionally you realize, oh, a well-meaning, flawed movie can sometimes.
Right.
You could just see how votes were split
right.
along the way. And I would be fascinating if they ever made public those numbers.
They never will. William Goldman had always said, he's long gone now, had said they should release the results. I've talked about this on the show before. That would be horrible, because if you found out you won Best Actor by one vote, that would take it away. If you find out you lost Best, Hollywood would just burn. It would be fascinating reading, and I'd read it the second it dropped. Everybody would be on their phones like, ooh,
Well, can you imagine now that there are so many? They're up to 10 nominees.
Yeah.
Right. Can you imagine? The winner of Best Picture may get 17%.
Well,
18% of voters.
So my former guest Scott Frank on the Gandhi episode made that point: is when there was 5, this year there's 5. You only had to get 21% of the vote, which meant that 79% of the voters didn't think your movie was the best.
Right.
And now there's a preferential ballot, which I think is much. So let's say, going with this year, if you put one battle after another at like 3, and you had 2 things above it that had no chance of winning, they like go down to your 3. So like what you pick as number 2 or 3 has a good chance of winning, because you say, okay, well, if I can't get this, so that's how the preferential ballot works. That's my understanding of it. I could be wrong. It's sort of a narrative.
So you're saying if you voted one battle after another as your third favorite, it still gets some measure of points from your ranking it highly?
If your first favorite is something that's like everybody else ranks 10, it gets knocked out, but they go back to everybody's ballots and go to what's your number 2. So like a movie you thought was pretty good has a better chance of winning, as opposed to the way it is the year we're talking about, where it's winner take all.
Right.
It's a general election.
Right.
It's a popular vote.
So
not an electoral vote.
Right, exactly.
So it is so what Scott pointed out, which I thought was kind of brilliant, I never thought about, 'cause he's also he's an anthropologist, is that in this year we're talking about, it's 5 movies. If everything gets 20, nothing wins. So something has to get 21 all the way up to 100. And this movie, going to what you were saying a minute ago, we'll never know, could have gotten 21, 25% of the vote. Now, the narrative around Oscar night is Born on the 4th of July had won the Golden Globe. Born on the 4th of July, I think, was the favorite going into it. Oliver Stone does win Best Director. This director's not even nominated. And I think... and we've seen this happen in more recent times. I think, I don't know like what the campaign temperature was like, but Born on the 4th of July was the movie, because he was coming off Platoon. He made 2 movies in between, and Born on the 4th of July was very successful. It made less money than this. Actually, no, it made about the same amount of money as this.
It made a worldwide 140 about.
It made over $100 million worldwide, which is staggering for that movie. And we'll talk about that movie in a little bit. So they were about even as far as like they were like not blockbusters, but like for serious awards movies, did really, really well. And Born on the 4th of July had a very small budget, even with Tom Cruise. It had like a $14 million budget. Wow. And they had to take like back end and stuff. Even with Tom Cruise, it was just like Universal's like, no. You got to do it at this low price. And I don't imagine the budget for this movie was particularly high, but I'm sure this movie was greenlit because it was a very popular play, and they probably thought, oh, this could be like an awards movie. The same calculus that goes into everything now. 100%. But yeah, I think this opening is effective. I mean, it's very like, okay, I'd seen this movie before, of course, but it's like there's a premise, like this old lady gets in a crash.
By the way, in the very universal premise, we're all going to experience aging ourselves or have dealt with someone aging.
Parents,
and God willing, our parents are aging and made it to that point. And so a very universal,
Relatable.
relatable entry point into this story that will contain some measure of vegetables, whether people, you know, easily criticizable vegetables, but
Right.
it contains some vegetables moving forward from that beginning. But a universal entry where,
Yeah.
you know, where people anywhere, someone in Des Moines could be like, "Oh yeah, oh man, she crashed her
I
car."
love the term I love the term vegetables 'cause I say that all the time. I
Yeah,
say that, like, you know, I really like Sinners, but there were some veggies with it because they were talking about racial inequality which is fine.
yeah,
That's what the movie wanted to do.
100%.
Whereas something like Weapons, I liked a little bit more because there were no veggies. It was just pure genre.
Right.
But no, I
Well,
think that's a good way to put it.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that well, just jump. I'm going to jump to one thing, and we can jump around as much as we want. There's a line from this movie that has always stuck with me, and I think about it almost weekly. And it's so funny because, what sticks with you from a movie? There's things that stick with me from movies that are not my favorite movies that I don't watch that often, but like there can be that one moment, that
Yeah.
one line, so there's a line that Idella says that I just love where, Daisy is just being really difficult and stubborn. It's pretty early in the movie. And Adela's like in the background. She doesn't even get her own close up. And she says, sometimes I think you ain't got the sense God gave a lemon. I love that line. It's always stuck with me. It's not like, oh, what does it mean? I don't know. I'm just shouting it out as just a line I like.
Right.
That just stuck with me. I don't know if it's from the play. I've never seen the play. Have you seen the play?
I did not see the play.
Okay.
And no one will put on the play now. So,
why do you think that?
well, the theater. One of the in prepping for this, there was a massive essay written by the theater that first put on the play, written by the person who's the chairperson of this theater now, and it is an apology for having put on this play.
Really?
Yes. And the white lens of this play. And because we're all grappling with the lens through which things were rewarded, produced.
Yeah.
Then. And it's funny because we're talking about 1989, but in 2012, this was the only numbers I could find on this.
Okay.
In 2012, the Academy was 94% white.
Yeah.
76% male. And so if you rewind 23 years prior to that, so if it was 94% white in 2012,
yeah, not that long ago,
was it 98% white? Yeah. So the idea of it is of no surprise to me that something might be a story told through very much the white lens.
Well, let's talk about that because this movie is widely criticized, if not outright hated, as when we're going to obviously cover Green Book, a movie I had not seen, but when Green Book won, that night, Spike Lee said, I'm always getting beaten by a movie that has a black man in a car. Even though in Green Book, it's the black man being driven.
They changed the seating positions, I think, was what Spike said.
But
the seating arrangement. They changed the seating arrangement.
Spike Lee said that on Oscar night. Now, in 1989, this is the very first Oscar show that I ever saw. I mean, I'd seen this is the first one I've ever sat down and watched. I don't know that I watched the whole thing, but I've seen every telecast since. I've never missed one. I'm only bringing that up to say that I wasn't following. I think this is the only movie I had seen on Oscar night. I think a year later I saw Dead Poets, and we'll get into that. I hadn't seen Field of Dreams yet, but so this is sort of totemic for me in that way. That like this is where my relationship with the Academy Awards, just as a thing, begins. Where I sat down and I watched the show, and I haven't missed one in the 36 years since. But let's talk. This is the big thing with this movie. So when Green Book won, there were two other Best Picture arrows that were slung at it. One was Crash, and we did an episode on Crash in the first season, and the other was this one, which story-wise is a lot closer, in terms of it taking place in the South and it being a period piece. And all three of these movies fair or not, have a reputation of the white lens, which you brought up. And I'm glad you brought this up because I think um, I don't think this movie is as infamous as those other two. It's
Right.
probably more forgotten. And we're obviously going to talk about later on Do the Right Thing, but Do the Right Thing isn't even nominated. And we'll get into that later on.
Right.
So it not being nominated is a scandal unto itself, but this movie against the 4 movies that it's against, I don't know what the thinking was on Oscar night. I know this was a surprise because the director's not nominated. And so the stats at that point, there had only been 2 movies before it where the director isn't nominated and the movie wins. It's happened 3 times since then. So it's not
Right.
as, and I think this preferential ballot also speaks to that. I think you're going to see, because it was very rare that you would see splits between picture and director, even if the director were nominated. It happens twice in the 80s. It happens once in the 70s. It happens maybe twice in the 60s. It was very rare. If you won Best Picture, your director was going to win. It was like, it was a given. So here the director's not even nominated.
Right.
So this winning Best Picture had to be a shock. I don't know if people were gasping or anything, but just going into Oscar night, I don't think anybody was picking. I think the smart money was on Born on the 4th of July. But let's talk about, we'll get into that crap later.
Now, did Born on the 4th of July, sorry, I know we're going to talk about these all separately, but
Yep.
it was my understanding that Born on the 4th of July, there was some controversy about how much was fabricated versus what had really happened, which is amazing. Driving Miss Daisy was based on the playwright had an elderly relative that had a African American driver and was
Right.
based on that, but that doesn't mean all the events were exactly as they happened. But it was my understanding that Born on the 4th of July was getting docked because of some measure of fabrication.
There is one thing I can speak to as far as that. Well, I can just talk about it now, just to talk about it. I don't know if this was a controversy, but the Oscar campaign mudslinging was not new even then.
Yeah.
It was. So I know that in Born on the 4th of July, there is a scene in the book. Ron Kovic says, "I killed someone in friendly fire." He does not use the guy's real name, just because he doesn't want to put the family through that. In the movie, and Oliver Stone, I don't think hides this. He talks about this on the director's commentary. In the movie, Ron Kovic goes to the family and tells them, "I killed your son."
Right.
And that's like the last piece of his arc. And the next time we see him, he is protesting.
Right.
That might have been something.
Right.
I think that, to me, falls under the creative license. It's also ironic because I love the movie JFK, but that movie's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
So like Oliver Stone would run way farther away with the truth in later
Right.
movies, but obviously we don't know that. But that's one thing off the dome that I know they changed, but I don't know that they made any secret about it. It's possible as like
Right.
whoever was doing the Oscar campaign for one of the other competing movies might have honed in on that. So
Right.
that's
I'm just saying in that point where the margins may have been super thin if these things
Sure.
split.
That could have been what tipped it over. Maybe, Oliver Stone does win Best Director, so
Right.
it's not leveled against him.
Yeah.
Look, Born losing could have been just virtue of the fact that 3 years before another Vietnam movie had won, and 8 years
Yeah.
before that another Vietnam movie had won. So I could see a voter, even if they really like Born, saying like, Vietnam's covered. And
Right.
Apocalypse Now is nominated in between, and there's also so many Vietnam movies out. You have Full Metal Jacket, you have Casualties of War, Hamburger Hill, Good Morning Vietnam, which is a Vietnam movie. It's not about a soldier, but it is still about Vietnam. So
Yeah.
I would be willing to argue it's a combination of maybe somebody having it in for the movie, maybe just a bit of fatigue of like the Marvel movies of just like, oh, we have a lot of Vietnam movies, and yeah, it was
Right.
important, but like
Right.
we're good.
We're good.
That doesn't mean that Driving Miss Daisy was the best
Yeah.
decision. We'll
Yeah,
litigate
yeah.
that. But let's talk about this white lens thing. I think
sorry.
No.
Yes.
This
Okay.
is so you're from Georgia,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah. So born in Miami through elementary school in Miami, then moved to Athens, Georgia. Very familiar with Atlanta. Enough where Dan Aykroyd's accent had me smashing my face into the wall.
I wanted to ask about this.
you
I
know-
wrote this down. I love Aykroyd, and he's a great. He's great. But you did this bit. You probably don't remember doing it. And I won't make you do it on mic. But I remember 20 years ago, 25, whatever it was. I remember you and I talking at our friend Eric's house, and we were talking about this very thing: Southern accents in movies.
Yeah.
And you launched into this bit about the Hollywood Southern accent.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've done this bit for other bit. I don't think it was like a prepared bit,
No,
but
it wasn't.
but you were. I'm gonna cut this out, but I don't. But
Yeah.
you were like, Your Honor, my
Yeah, it's
client is
always the
yeah,
thumbs and the suspenders.
yeah,
Lawyer, my client could not have committed. It was busting up a shifero.
yeah,
Like Your Honor. And there's this. It's just a very, you know, there you hit the R's harder. There are certain things. I'm sure that at some point someone studied a very specific
right,
Mississippi,
yeah,
giant column Mississippi, high
yeah,
society accent, and maybe there was that. But to me, it became this
right.
standard.
And Aykroyd
Um,
should know better. Aykroyd himself should know better. I mean, he's part of that. I don't, like I don't know. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit. I mean, maybe he shouldn't. But like, yeah, because it's. I feel like Tandy's is kind of subtle. It's
right.
okay. I don't know if it's. I can't speak to whether it's specific to Georgia. I think Freeman's is pretty good. I think
He's from
the South.
Mississippi.
He's from
Yeah.
Mississippi,
He's
so I
from
think his
Mississippi.
is like, and he did it on stage. But yeah, I think Aykroyd, yeah, is a serious offender there. And I think he's pretty good in the movie, but it's like now, mama, like
Yeah.
it's just
Now,
like
right.
it's like he's just doing what's been done, and maybe that sounded okay to him and maybe it sounded okay to the director because it's like, oh, this is what everybody does.
Director's
but,
Australian.
yeah, Bruce Beresford.
Dan Aykroyd, is he a deep dish Chicago?
No, he's Canadian.
He's Canadian. Sorry, so you're right. You're right. For some reason I always equate that the comedy scene is they're from Chicago.
Right.
They went through Chicago at
Sure.
some point.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're right. Yeah, total Canadian. And
Yeah.
so, by the way, and apparently, as I did research and tried to study the accent and
okay.
but I don't know. I never know if someone who's going to a dialect coach is being taught by a dialect coach that was taught that the same
Right.
cracker Mississippi
Fruit of the poisonous
shit.
tree.
Right,
Like,
right. And so what is
The
that?
foundation's so wrong
Yeah.
that it's all. Well, Billy Bob Thornton talked a lot about that because he, I believe, is from Georgia, and he has said what you had just said. Like, he's like, I've never heard anybody speak with that accent.
Right. Yeah.
And to his credit, when Matt Damon made The Rainmaker, which takes place in Memphis, he went to Memphis a couple weeks early and really just talked to people and really listened. And I can't speak to whether or not his Memphis accent
Right.
is, but it's not this. It's not. And other people in that same movie are doing this Dan Aykroyd thing, or just like doing the, Southern accent of just very lazy.
Right.
The thing I always think about with accents, and this is like my rare sort of interesting thought that's original. I always think about like if you were I'll just go easy. If you're like a British actor and you're playing an American and you do like this tough New York accent, but you're playing somebody from Mississippi because you don't know that the South is different than New York City. And I think what you're talking about is even within the South, there are different accents. So the accent in Atlanta might be different than the one in Mississippi. And, so I just feel like there's so many, because there's English dialects. I don't know the difference, but it's like when people do British accents, they might do a British accent that's really upper crust. But if you're from like Liverpool
Right.
or like Leeds or someplace, the British will laugh at you. It's just like this American dude just didn't do his homework,
Yeah,
So
and
I think it's
now-
the same thing in any country.
By the way, I was not in 1946 Georgia, which
Right.
is where this story begins, I
Right.
believe. So perhaps Dan Aykroyd stumbled upon a historic linguist who
Right.
dialect coach.
Yeah.
He's like, no, in this area of Atlanta. But I noticed those. Look,
It doesn't
I noticed
read
the
as-
lapses. It comes and goes in certain
it
words.
doesn't read right.
And so it's like, okay. But by the way, serviceable that he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. That's where I really...
Yeah.
Wait, really? Because I'm
Well-
thinking, well, what did he do? I mean, I don't know. Then I think, well, where is the moment where I thought, oh my god?
No, I think I think he's a good example, and this happens a lot. Of this movie got 9 nominations, and I think there's just this sweep of, okay, we're gonna everyone's getting nominated. You know what I'm saying?
Where it just catches.
I think
momentum.
if he would never be this movie's only nomination. He certainly wouldn't be this movie's only acting nomination. I think, I think it's just the idea that like, okay, well, we nominated Tandy and Freeman, and the only other person in the movie of any prominence is, I mean, his role is much smaller. It's a two-hander, but the next biggest role is the son. And yeah, so I think it's you see that all the time. You see, if you look in the acting categories, almost every year you see one person, and it's like, oh, well, this movie just got so many
Yeah,
nominations.
it just was on the crest of the wave.
It's the crest of the wave of campaigning. You certainly see that with like Miramax movies. You know, you often see that in Best Supporting Actress, which isn't to say that the actor isn't good, but it's like this woman has like 3 lines in a movie, but they needed to fill that slot because they don't write good supporting roles for women. Although this most current Best Supporting Actress category was actually one of the better ones, you know, like a lot of good performances. There was less of that. But yeah, I'm glad I wrote down, what did I write? I think Aykroyd's accent's a little much. Yeah, Aykroyd's accent is a little bit much. And I'm a huge Dan Aykroyd fan. And this was like kind of a bit of a swerve for him because this is like the same year as Ghostbusters 2. And this is like the only really serious thing that I can think of him doing. But it's not like
I pray to God he was on the set of Ghostbusters 2 when he found out that he was nominated for Best Actor.
No, that was before this.
Oh, it was before. It was right.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm saying it's the same year. I'm just saying like this is where he was in his career. Like he was like kind of coming to the end of. I talked about the 80s being the best decade for comedy. He's a huge part of that, you know?
Yeah.
He's one of like, I don't know, 8 or 12 people that's part of that. So this was a little bit of a swerve for him. And I think the accent aside, it's like an interesting pivot because it's like serious, but he's not being asked to like do anything like gut wrenching. This is not a movie like that anyway. It's not like he's doing like that simple Jack joke, you know, where he's like, you know, like he's not playing this part that's like, he's not transforming himself, and given how hard we're being on his accent, he's really not transforming himself. But
and there's also that thing when a funny guy does something serious, but you like to reward him for that.
Yeah, I think that's why he got nominated.
Yeah, the water's getting muddied, and it's like, yeah, but how great was it? There are plenty of funny guys that have Robin Williams, who we might be talking about shortly.
Yes. Well, no, this is in between. This is Robin Williams gets nominated for Good Morning Vietnam. He's nominated this year for Dead Poets. Yeah. Tom Hanks is nominated for Big, which is a comedic performance, but it's like a movie that's like kind of more serious. Not more serious. It's just more like ambitious than.
Yeah, it's a perfect movie.
Yeah, it's more ambitious than anything else Tom Hanks had done up to that point.
Right.
It's really the beginning of Tom Hanks.
If you don't want to count his turn on Family Ties as Uncle Ned.
Uncle Ned.
The alcoholic Uncle Ned.
Is he just in that one episode?
I hit Alex. I think he recurred.
Okay.
Because I went to go see the I Hit Alex Tom Hanks episode and watched the entire first episode with Tom Hanks there. And it isn't the I Hit Alex part. He shows up later in the season.
Oh.
Having lost his job, he's getting sauced.
Yeah.
And has this outburst and hits Alex P. Keaton. It's just
yeah.
You knew he had the goods, though, I will say. You knew that Tom Hanks was going to be a big bad mamma jamma.
Yeah.
Even from his Family Ties. Sorry, I digress.
No. I took you there. It's fine.
White lens.
So yeah, let's talk about this because I think that this is you. I think I gave you a choice. I think you chose to do this movie. Maybe
100%.
And I was sort of, sometimes I will assign a guess like, ooh, I want to hear. I knew you probably weren't going to be a fan. And that's great. But I also know you're from this area and I mean, you don't have a Southern accent.
Right.
I was born in South Carolina.
I learned how to speak in Miami, which has not really a discernible accent whatsoever. It's
the same way.
One of those melting pots.
Exactly, like LA. Right. I was born in South
Right.
Carolina. I moved to Miami when I was 3 weeks old. But my grandparents lived in South Carolina. I mean, they were transplants from Chicago. And it might be a slightly different accent, but I did spend a lot of time in the South. And there were a lot of things about this movie, you know, because geographically they were very close. They were in Hilton Head Island. That's only a little bit north of Atlanta. So, like, a lot of this felt familiar to me. It could just be the easy imagery of an elderly woman in the South, but obviously this woman is from the South. You know, this woman is born and raised at least in the area. I don't know about Atlanta, but she's
it's in Atlanta.
So yeah, I mean, you don't sound like, and I have family who live in Atlanta, and I think it's a different. Let's talk.
Well, it's funny because when you get home, when I'm home visiting. Yeah. My family looks at me like, who the hell are you? Because suddenly it's, are y'all coming over to Jessica's? Because we're going to watch the game. Yeah. We'll have a bunch of drinks out. Yeah. Like Jessica's going to make her 7-layer dip. Yeah. It's vegan, but y'all will love it. Yeah. You know, like suddenly everyone's looking at me like, there is a weird, like,
you regress.
I'm not call it code switching. Yeah, you talk like your friends. Like, I came of age. Like, I learned to speak in Miami. I came of age in Georgia.
Right.
I talk like my friends when I'm home.
Right.
But it's a strange thing because
Yeah.
I can talk like
Yeah. You code switch.
more like Californians
Yeah.
when I'm here and when I,
Yeah, people
so it's
talk
an
about that.
interesting.
Like people from Boston, they won't have the accent, and they get home and they'll be like cocksucker, and it's like
Cocksucker, yeah,
it just slips out.
Wicked, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it just slinks in, and it doesn't feel like code switching because it's not like
No,
I'm
it's
studying the Chicago accent because I'm visiting Chicago,
Right.
Or I'm meeting with a Chicago distributor.
It's
or
who you're
something.
around, and
Yeah.
it's not code switching because you're not doing it consciously. A code switch is like I have to do this.
Right? Yeah. Right.
know.
It's just kind of you lapse into it, but the
Do you think this movie's not about? Okay, so we're talking about white lens. Let's stick with this because we keep zipping off it. Do you think this movie is not enough about Hoke? It's not a two-hander.
for sure the lens. Oh God, I keep using lens through which we see this story is in her family
Mhm.
and Aykroyd's business and Aykroyd and her house and her and him as the it's become sort of this magical character.
Yeah.
Okay. Then there's many people way smarter than I have mused and written about the magical black man or magical black woman or some person who exists to help a white person along their journey.
Right.
Okay. We don't see very much about his world in this. We see bits and pieces, but really it's about coming to her, driving her.
Right.
And so there's a bombing in Driving Miss Daisy.
Yeah. Of a synagogue.
Of all the bombings and burnings of black churches that happened in the entirety of the civil rights movement,
Mhm.
the bombing in this movie is of a temple.
Right. Because she's Jewish.
Because she's Jewish.
Right.
Okay. I wonder if an authentic storyteller would think it's okay for the bombing to be, or it's in a black church as so often happen.
Right.
And by the way, that bombing of that temple is a real thing.
Sure.
It's a real thing.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying it's not.
And very relevant. I'm not just saying this because I'm Jewish. Very relevant to now. It's one of the few things about this movie that felt,
100%.
this feels current.
Right.
And they couldn't have known that.
So I think, but we have to look at the lens of the storytelling.
100%.
So this is a black man in the Jim Crow South, and the story's about a white Jewish lady.
Right.
And that is I believe that's a fair criticism of Driving Miss Daisy. That doesn't mean they ignore. The whole point is the parallels.
Right.
By the way, this started as a play. Do you know who keeps live theater alive?
Hmm.
Aside from musicals where like white girls of 13 years of age keep alive,
Right.
Who keeps theater alive are blue-haired Jewish white women. Okay? And they gobbled this play up with a spoon.
Sure.
And they gobbled this movie up with a spoon.
Yeah, it made a lot of money.
And by the way, when I look at these movies, well, we're speaking here as a couple of Semites.
Right.
Okay? And I know there was one temple in Athens, Georgia, where I grew up, and I knew everyone that went there and all that. I wasn't like practicing Jewish, but like,
right.
So let's look at the list of other films that were nominated. There's nothing with any Jewish themes in it. There's nothing that covered something like that, or the parallels between the Jewish experience and the black experience in America.
Right.
Right. And so I'm just saying, and there are many people that have joked about, oh, where's the Holocaust movie? What's going to win the best short?
Sure.
What's going to win the best doc? Which one was about the Holocaust?
Yeah.
By the way, it's obvious why that is resonant.
Yeah.
For us.
Right.
It's obvious why that's resonant.
Right.
But I also think you can see in what would win and what get nominated in the stories that got a certain amount of attention.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm not even saying that with any type of criticism. When I look at this list and I think of, well, Miss Daisy's a Jewish woman.
Right.
Her people are getting bombed in this. It's impossible to change our lenses. Our lenses what they are. Our blind spots are what they are.
Yeah.
You know? But when you talk about, I would venture to say, filmmakers, if we talk about the Academy at the time being 94% white.
Yeah.
And 76% male. That's in 2012. If we make it 97% and 80% white, up it by that amount.
Yeah, go back to 89.
We can't ignore that presumably the people making the movies of the time are the exact same those are the members of the academy. Those are the highest level of whatever. Those are the people greenlighting, the people doing things. Certain stories resonate and certain things they can see and certain things they might not be able to see.
Yeah.
So Hoke getting the fuzzy end of the lollipop story-wise
Yeah.
may seem, no, but he still gets this or that, and he still teaches her, you're not better than me. You know
Right.
that. And there's the line that stuck with me from this movie was who, they bombed your temple and who would do such a thing? And Hoke says,
He says, you know as good as me, it'll always be the same ones.
it'll always be the same.
That's a
ones.
great moment.
It's a crazy. It is the moment. That is the moment where the movie about an old lady that crashes her car and needs a driver is really about the intersectionality
Right.
between the Jewish experience and the Black experience.
And
right?
he tells a story about
And
being about seeing the guy lynched.
right.
And those are two moments that I think work. And if there was an attempt made, and this wasn't even discussed, I'm sure, because it wasn't in the play, if there was an attempt made to make this parallel, to make it a true two-hander, the movie might have a better reputation today.
Right.
If it was, because it
Right.
flirts with this idea of like, oh, it's a similar experience, but it's way too lopsided.
Right. It's way too lopsided. By the way, but that's what's important. He then tells this gruesome story of seeing flies on the face.
Yeah.
Right.
And she's like, why'd you tell me? She's upset by it. She's like, why'd you tell me that story? He's like, I don't know. I just thought of it. Or, like,
right. He's trying to get her to draw the line and to make this, like, yes,
Yeah.
you have privilege, but also you need to see it's the same thing and blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, it's the magical guy trying to help her along the way. Right. And so that, it's interesting in thinking of who is in a position to tell stories then.
Sure.
And what the lenses looks like and how,
Yeah.
and by the way, I contend that they did a noble job within this specific sandbox they built of having those parallels and don't you see this and don't you see that?
Right.
And she's still privileged.
Right.
And she finds a way for him not to be with her at the MLK speech, right?
Yeah.
It's an empty seat. She's like, Hoke said you might, and Hoke was trying to get her to invite him.
Right.
I mean, not Hoke, Booley, her son, trying to get her to invite him, and she never does actually invite him. And so like, there's this distance, there's still a distance between them. I think they did a noble job, and the core problem is it's a portrayal of a freaking chauffeur with a yes sir thing, right?
Yeah.
And Morgan Freeman struggled with that. He's from Mississippi. He said that people were coming up. This was when the play was a hit. And people coming up saying, oh my God, that was amazing. It reminded me of growing up. It reminded me of when I was growing up. And in their eyes, he sees, is that nostalgia?
Oh, interesting. Right. I missed this. That.
Yeah. And he apparently had to go, and he talked to several of his African-American counterparts and said, they said, no, you're doing great work.
Right.
If they see it in that, that's on them, you know? But so the cinematic experience for Black audience members was often seeing subservience.
Right.
Right. In this case, like, I think you can make, and what was the thing he said about criticism? He said, you can't go back. Sorry. You can't write the present into the past. Morgan Freeman said, which is an amazing quote.
Yeah.
And he's right.
Yeah.
I think he came across a time and place.
Right.
Where, another yes, sir.
Yeah.
Opening the door for you. And literally like that final moment, which is beautiful, but also him feeding her.
Right. Yeah.
Let's talk about caretakers. Let's talk about the high population of caretakers that are African American. Let's talk about like this ties into a whole lot of things. He is serving her the whole movie.
Right.
He's trying to get a raise from the white guy.
Right.
He's trying to like so I think, and this will tie into when we talk about the other movies, especially one other movie that was so clearly ignored, largely ignored, that even that a white lady from Georgia named Kim Basinger had to get up and say something. But at any rate,
that's right, she is from Georgia.
It just was interesting. I think that you can quibble with the flaws within the movie, which are legit and lens based and all that, and every bombing of everything is horrible. All of it is horrible. We acknowledge that is horrible.
Right.
but in the South, it's, wait, how did we make, let's say we did a movie, a giant studio movie in the South, and how is the principal struggle about the Jewish lady?
Right.
When there's a man who's,
right,
God knows, demeaned in so many ways daily.
Yeah.
Not going to the Christmas Eve party and not doing this and not riding around in the nice car, being driven by someone.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of reasons within it where it's kind of problematic. But I think the macro is another,
Right.
and interpreting his character as like a step and fetch it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because he's probably doing it wildly. He's Morgan friggin' Freeman. He's probably doing he grew up in Mississippi.
Yeah.
He's probably doing a dialect of like a neighbor. I have no idea, right? He's probably dead on, but when it's like, eyes knows the ABCs a little. No, put the words together, and she's teaching him how to read.
Yeah.
In the heads, it's just like a little bit of like.
Yeah, it's interesting. So much to unpack there. But it's interesting.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
This is great. This is why I had you on. I think, there was an opportunity that's squandered to make. I mean, it's a two-hander in that he's in as much of the movie as she is, but it is about her experience. And I think that it has this reputation of what you just said. This is another movie from the white people's experience. And we're going to talk about Spike Lee in a little bit. That was Spike Lee's thing. I mean, Spike Lee said his problem with Cry Freedom, which was a big break for Denzel Washington, is that it's about the Kevin Kline character. His problem with Amistad is that it's about the Matthew McConaughey character. And he says Steven Spielberg's the best director ever. And he still got this wrong, and he and Spielberg are friends to this day. So he called Spielberg out on this, which is why, he felt he, rather than Norman Jewison, should do Malcolm X. Of course, he was right. And Jewison very magnanimously stepped down.
Right.
But he's not the only one who brings this up. I think, Morgan Freeman's character, I think that dialect, because he's from, a similar area, probably is dead on. He probably did it 100 times on stage. It's a shame because he's one of our great actors. This is the first thing I remember seeing him in, and just to kind of pull out a little bit, he's nominated for Best Actor. 2 years prior, he's nominated for Best Supporting Actor for a movie called Street Smart. Have you ever seen this movie? With Christopher Reeve?
No.
So Morgan Freeman plays a very vicious and violent pimp, but it's not like a 70s Huggy Bear type thing.
Right.
There's a scene in Street Smart, and the movie's not amazing, but he really popped it. He's nominated for his first Oscar, and it begins, and he's already like 50. He's like, when that movie comes out, he's in his early 50s here. So like, it's late in life where he's always working, but like, it really starts him becoming like, eventually a kind of a mainstream, maybe not movie star, but certainly, he's in big Hollywood movies. There's a scene in that movie where Christopher Reeve is this reporter who's trying to write about the streets, and he's just like privileged and tone deaf. And Morgan Freeman is in a car with a prostitute, and he makes Christopher Reeve sit in between them, and he like breaks his beer bottle and like holds it up to the woman's neck, and like Christopher Reeve is between them, and it is an incredible performance.
Wow.
This is a long-winded way of saying he's one of our great actors.
Yes.
And I guess we're kind of saying this movie isn't worthy of him, or this role as written. And I guess it's probably the same thing. I can't imagine this changed that much from the play, other than opening it up and having more stuff in the car.
Right.
We can't speak to that. But it's a shame because, Jessica Tandy is so good in this movie, and it's not that she's not up to the challenge.
No, she's great.
Yeah, I think there's less vitriol for this than something like Crash or Green Book. I haven't seen Green Book, so I can't weigh in on this, but I talked a lot about this. I will watch Green Book for that episode. In fact, I think I didn't see it because I'm like, well, eventually I'm going to do that podcast, so I'll watch it then. I'm like, I'm not watching that before I have to.
Oh, I have a whole Green Book rant. I know the
Well,
Green
we'll
Book
have you
people.
on for that episode. You can come back for Green Book. We can make this like a duology. But I think the reason that I can speak about Green Book reputationally and Crash reputationally, and I've seen Crash, I think this isn't quite lumped in with them because I think it's looked at as like, okay, this is tone deaf, but this is the best they could do at the time. Meaning like this is like, the intention, it's just tone deaf. I think that's the problem with this movie. And I think that Crash is tone deaf too, but it's just so aggressive and so it's like it's taking
but
on so much that it's like it's sort of
but the road to progress
yeah,
is littered with things that got it wrong,
exactly.
that maybe were necessary in
Yeah,
a dark, twisted way.
no,
Maybe were necessary to realize, oh yeah.
yeah,
And so the same year that we have a chauffeur, yes, spoon feeding pie
right,
to the old white lady, we have the most brash,
yeah,
vibrant, insane, brilliant,
right,
turning and again, Spike Lee had been trying to figure out his voice, but this was his
right.
giant announcement to the world unabashedly, Public Enemy blaring.
We're gonna get to Christmas
I
Vacation soon, but
Chris
no,
Vacation with all the Public Enemy,
yeah.
yeah, but yeah, right. Sorry, yeah.
No, no,
So
it's okay.
that,
No. I think you're right. And it's impossible to talk about Driving Miss Daisy without talking about Do the Right Thing. Um,
and Spike Lee must have had the craziest deja vu to watch Green Book.
he
Sorry,
said that. No. But no. It's
insane.
we're here.
Yeah,
Let's go
the
there.
new
He
seating
said
arrangement.
that. You
Yeah,
could go on YouTube
yeah,
and see the Vanity Fair party or something. Spike Lee does win the screenplay Oscar, and he's talking to two British journalists. This is only what 6-7 years ago,
yeah.
and he says it's like every time there's a black man in the car, I get screwed. And he's saying it kind of in good humor. And then they go, "What did you think of Green Book?" And he
Right.
says, "It was not my cup of tea." Like
That
so.
every time somebody's
Oh,
driving somebody, I lose.
that's it.
But they change the seating arrangement.
That's it. Thank you for having that ready.
Yeah. No, I thought it was
Yeah.
so amazing.
I mean,
So,
in
so
the case of Black Klansman, he's at least nominated. He's nominated for everything. I'd argue. I mean,
yeah.
Black Klansman's interesting. It's not Do the Right Thing. I mean, you could say that about a lot of movies, but it is. And again, I haven't seen Green Book. Obviously, we're going to litigate that when we get to the Green Book episode. But I think he was. I mean, if there were a social media, I mean, I'm sure he raised a ruckus then, because he said a similar thing. It doesn't have to do with race. He's at the Cannes Film Festival the same time that Sex, Lies, and Videotape is, and Sex, Lies, and Videotape wins the Palme d'Or. And Soderbergh himself is a little like not embarrassed, but he's just like, is this like white play? Like, what is this? And Spike Lee says, like, me and Steven Soderbergh are totally cool.
Yeah.
This isn't about not liking his movie, but a similar thing happened where Sally Field was on the jury of Cannes, and she came up to him and said, like, I voted for Do the Right Thing. I really want to do the right thing to win. She basically says it was like a 12 Angry Men thing, not just her, but like we couldn't get enough votes.
Right.
So Do the Right
Right.
Thing, I think, if you want to talk about voting, was probably the number 2 choice. And I love Sex, Lies, and Videotape, and it's an incredibly important movie in this year as far as crossing independent movies over across the street. But it's not about race. It's for white people, also in the South, in Baton Rouge in that case. But it's nothing, But
right.
So, but Spike Lee and Soderbergh himself was kind of magnanimous about it, but Sex Lies is not part of this Oscar conversation.
No,
In fact,
no,
both those movies
it's not.
are just nominated for Best Original Screenplay. So it's kind of funny how both these really important movies, this is a great movie year. It's kind of a weird Oscars. It's kind of just like, and we'll get to that in a second, but sticking with this movie, I do think rewatching it yesterday and seeing that final scene, I understand why this won, putting aside the racial element. I understand there the moments in this that do work, and I understand, and they're like other things I've seen in other Best Picture winners, whether I've revisited them for this show or not. So I'll tip my hand. I don't think this is the best movie even nominated, but I'm not slapping my forehead like how. Like, I understand how.
Yeah.
Particularly once now, if I were, I was alive, if I were following, I was too young to be following all these adult movies in '89, and so I didn't have the reaction that I have now of like Oscar nominations day being like, how could they have forgotten this? How could they? I wasn't aware of that. I didn't even know how that process worked. Yeah. But one of the lines, I'll be a little positive. It's kind of one of the more subtle moments in this movie. It's kind of toward the end where Daisy's really just become elderly, and she says, Idella was lucky. And I just love that because they don't over-explain it. Like she was
Right.
lucky to die.
Yeah.
And that scene where Idella dies, you just see the peas dropping. I thought was this movie shot
Yeah,
fine. That was a very strong visual.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, Bruce Beresford. It's interesting because I just I watched for the first time Tender Mercies, which he directed for the '83 episode with Robert Duvall. Have you ever seen that movie?
Which one?
Tender Mercies. Duvall wins Best Actor for.
No,
He's the
it's a
country
blind
singer.
spot.
Yeah, it's an interesting movie. It's
Okay.
it's another southern. I think they're in like Texas or someplace dustier. I think that movie might do a better job of like showing you a culture, but there's also they're not dealing with anything racial there.
Right.
I mean
right.
that. But anyway, I just think I've seen other Bruce Beresford movies, but it's just interesting just going through like these Best Picture winners and nominees. It wasn't that long ago that I was with this director, but I'm not at all. I don't think he should have been nominated for Best Director. Not that it's a bad job. I just like that's not one I would have been like, oh, how could they have excluded him?
Right.
You know, he certainly wouldn't have won even if he had been nominated.
Yeah.
So we don't even have to really litigate that because he's not nominated. But yeah, I think the last scene of this movie is really effective, and I think that's what people were going out on.
Yeah.
Just that he goes to visit her at the old age home, and you know she has good days and bad days, but they're showing you her on a good day. You know, like mentally she's sharp. They're not. You know, they don't do this thing where we have to see her too diminished. You know, which I appreciated. You know.
Yeah.
So I understand. And there was another. Sorry,
there's you know what? There's somebody. So as a writer, it's a bad habit because other people made the work and all that. But I think of if they just had this.
Well, let's hear it. No, do it. I think
if they just had this, it changes a lot.
Okay, so what is that?
Well, when this movie ends, it's the '70s. There's no reason why in coming back and Booley's there when in the nursing home or whatever. There's no reason why Booley doesn't say, I hear you stopped driving too, because his eyesight's not as good as he's very old now, right? His eyesight. There's no reason why Hoke saying, well, I got 3 guys driving for me now. Show a little bit of come up for him.
Oh, like that he's prospered. Yeah.
That the world has changed. Give us a little bit of something about Hoke's world that's changed.
Right.
He's got 4 guys riding for me. Yeah. And 4 of the shiniest caddies you've ever seen. Whatever that is. It throws up a little bit. This is the 70s now.
Right. He started a business where he's a chauffeur business or something, which he could have done. Yeah.
He's feeding her pie. He has lived his entire life that we know of. He's lived his entire life in servitude.
Right. Because we never go home with him. We never see him alone. He has grandkids. He had a wife who died, which we established in the beginning. We're alone with her, or at least we're with her and Dan Aykroyd and her and like her daughter-in-law. We're never alone with him, which is the clearest indication that it's not equal.
Right.
The focus of this isn't equal.
No. And again, I'm talking as a white guy, right?
Sure.
I'm not saying, but I'm just, if I were to try and experience a different lens and think, look, so if I were to say it, I'd say, well, how did this movie end up being about that?
Yeah.
How is this person's entire life in servitude? And there's not the moment where, you know what?
Yeah.
I was really good at driving. And you know what I also did?
Yeah.
I sold that one nice car I got from you and bought 3, and I started a little taxi company, whatever the hell that thing is.
I think that's a great idea,
a little
actually.
piece of the American dream.
Yeah.
He calls her rich. He calls it like, they're having this whole conversations about class.
Yeah.
And her like, no, I grew up on,
look what you have now. He says
I grew up on Forsyth, and I know what a penny's worth and all that.
Right.
And like, no, but you're doing fine now, right? And so like trying to get
she
that
masquerades so much about. And she did, I'm sure, come from modest means, but like, yeah, she is such a, like there's so much identity, so many things about identity, whether it's racial or like class, that they just leave on the table.
Right, 100%. And that literally was a free thing to include on page 91.
I agree.
And it would have been so much to say like this person, like you can show a historical. You say like this historical piece based on the real experience of this playwright's elderly person, and this was a real thing, but just a way to say this person's been in servitude their entire life.
Right.
Has a little bit of piece, got a little bit of piece of the pie.
Right.
A little bit of piece that he clearly was envious of.
Right.
this person was accused of stealing a can of salmon at one point in
Well, he never
this.
gets accused, which I love.
No, well, she's
about
like,
to.
"It's about you." She's about to, and he
Yeah.
said, he did eat it."
Right, but
Because
he
you
but
gave
he
me crappy leftovers.
Right.
You know that?
Yeah.
And so I replaced it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I ate that salmon because
Yeah.
you gave me inedible freaking food. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's these little things that drive me freaking nuts. But aside from the granular stuff within the movie, which
Yeah.
could have been improved and the lens
Sure.
improved, and it's the greater picture of a character in servitude.
Yeah.
It's what Public Enemy was bumping on in Burn, Hollywood Burn, featuring Big Daddy Kane
Yeah.
and Ice Cube. When the whole thing comes to this moment where an announcer says, "Ladies and gentlemen, driving Miss Daisy," and they're like, "Boo, fuck that," right? It's like, oh shit, like really it was another servitude movie.
Right.
Winning the greatest honor
Right.
possible. And then on another level, winning that greatest honor over a non-nominated
Right.
Do the Right Thing.
Right.
Which was, I mean, such a page turn in cinema.
Right.
That Spike Lee made this movie true to him, as
Yeah.
amazing as it was. And the voters were at the very least 94% all white.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
just like, I didn't get it. Why did they have us playing that loud music for the first 5 minutes of that movie? It was just loud music and that girl wearing practically nothing, dancing in front of the.
Right.
What was? I don't even know they know what to make of it. The language they're expecting in an Oscar-winning movie is completely different.
Yeah. Well, let's. Anything else you want to say about Driving Miss Daisy, or do you want to pivot to the?
No, I think it's like there's granular reasons to dislike Driving Miss Daisy.
Yeah.
But I really think it was a time for the page turning on the storytelling of the servitude. And I think they were bumped on in equal parts, but I actually think more in the overarching story was problematic.
Yeah.
And we got to sit through this again.
Yeah. Well, let's pivot to categorically denied. Before we get to Best Picture, let's see if Driving Miss Daisy was worthy of the other 3 Oscars it won. So, Jessica Tandy wins Best Actress. She beats Isabella Adjani for Camille Claudel. Apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Pauline Collins for Shirley Valentine, Jessica Lange for Music Box, and Michelle Pfeiffer for The Fabulous Baker Boys. So, of those other performances that you've seen, that you've remembered, we're just talking about Jessica Tandy. Does she keep her Oscar? What say you?
She keeps the Oscar. And it's also that lifetime achievement thing that happens when someone's been around that long that sometimes works out. Sometimes the lifetime achievement is a pain, which God, we keep talking about Spike Lee. Like, I don't know, Scent of a Woman, Pacino finally.
That's probably the most
Malcolm
infamous
X.
one.
Totally infamous.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, it's time for him to win, but yeah, do you have to do that right now? Because
Well, I think
Denzel just. Anyway.
Yeah, I know. I think 2 things. One, I will agree. I think Jessica Tandy's very good in this movie. I also think Jessica Lange is terrific in Music Box. I haven't seen that in a long time, but I think Jessica Tandy's great. These issues we have are not with her performance, but with
she delivered.
And also Jessica Tandy. I think the lifetime achievement thing is a cogent point. I mean, not just in movies, but she's the original Blanche Dubois in Streetcar with Brando.
100%.
And I don't know why she wasn't in the movie. There's we can get into that in the 51 episode, but I mean, she had to be incredible to be on stage with a 23-year-old Marlon Brando. We want to talk about a page turning.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. I love Vivian Lee in the movie, but I'm curious. I don't know why Tandy didn't do it. I have to research that when we get to that. Because I think everybody else in that cast went on to do the movie except for her.
Yeah.
I think.
Interesting.
I don't have that. So yeah, she wins. Another thing I want to point out to the point you made about lifetime achievement, I do think the Academy is much better at handing the Oscar to younger people. Mikey Madison being the most recent example of like, okay, you're good. We're gonna give it to you now. We're not gonna make you wait till you're 60. So I think this thing of Scent of a Woman isn't really happening anymore. And I think that a more international and a more diverse Academy, I've said those words a lot, I think we're seeing that bad trend all but not happening anymore. Amy Madigan won, she's 75 years old, but like it was for like a horror movie and she was great in it. So I think with the acting awards, you may not agree, but I think they're not doing this lifetime achievement thing anymore. And it's been that way for about 10 years.
Yeah.
That's not a hard stat. It's like
yes,
Eddie
but
Redmayne and Alicia
a-
Vikander and Brie Larson and Mikey Madison and a few I'm not even thinking of. I think they're much better about what it used to be is like, we think this person was the best. We can argue that all day long, but I don't care that they're 25 or 30. We're not going to make them wait because I think they've seen the Academy has seen like that just doesn't work out, or
Yeah.
rarely works out. The only time that's worked out is, Susan Sarandon wins for Dead Man Walking, and that could be looked at as a Lifetime thing, but it's also her best performance.
Right.
So the
Yeah.
two things can link up. I mean,
Yeah.
she's only like 50. It's not really
I mean,
Lifetime.
next to Rocky Horror, it's her best performance.
Yes. Okay, so this one I know you're not going to agree, but let's see which way you want to go. So best adapted screenplay, it beats Born on the 4th of July, Enemies, A Love Story, Field of Dreams, or My Left Foot. So of those that you've seen that you remember, what say you?
I'm a baseball guy. I'm a huge fan of Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
It's a dead dad movie.
Yeah.
And it's a killer for me.
I have a dead dad too, so it's hard.
But I would actually go with Born on the 4th of July. And that's there are moments in that.
Yeah.
It gets dirty, it goes grimy, it follows a really fucking brutal, true to many veterans unfortunately path, and just that I keep thinking we talk about this one line that freaking gets you. Sorry.
It's okay.
When the dad is like, "It's good to have you back, Ronnie." I think his voice literally does that.
Yeah.
Where his football star, his sports star son is back from, this, last time he saw him was this heroic in uniform to serve the country, and he's like retrofitting his house with.
Yeah, I widened the doorway for you. I added,
it's good to have you back, and it's like, how do I even love this new version? How do I show love to this new broken version of my child? And I just think, movies are made up of moments, and that. Yeah, I would say Born on the 4th of July.
I'm gonna echo you. Yeah, I think Born on the 4th of July. Having just rewatched it, I think that's the case there, and that's a powerful movie, and we're gonna talk about that in just a minute because it's obviously up for Best Picture. There's so many moments like that in that movie, and the one you honed in on, is one of many powerful in that movie.
But I will say, I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna give an extra shout out to Field of Dreams.
No, that's another one.
Like
It's a real close call between those two, because I think that's another that I would be between those two. I mean, I have not seen Enemies, A Love Story. Apologies. My Left Foot I saw for this podcast. I'd never seen it before. I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Even just isolating the screenplay, not where I'd go with that. But I think that it's a close call between Born and Field of Dreams. I think I'd go Born by a nose, but if it had gone the other way. But definitely. So best makeup, it beats The Adventures of Baron Munchausen and Dad. What say you? Or do you want to let it keep its makeup Oscar?
God, Baron and Munchausen. I guess I don't know how big of a feat. Again, I don't know the makeup world that well. How big of a feat is this to age someone 30 years? Is it hair color? How much did they add? I would have to know more about the process. I'm going to trust the voters on this one.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think when you're dealing with a movie that's as old as this, I think the makeup holds up really well.
Yeah.
Like looking at it in
it never
HD.
bugged me.
I think Aykroyd's makeup is convincing. He's the one where you see it the most because I think with Freeman, they're just making his hair like whiter and grayer and everything.
Yeah.
I think Aykroyd, because he's like in his late 30s,
and
then goes to, I don't know, 60, 65, however old he's supposed to be.
Right.
I think it's convincing. I don't feel that strongly about it. So we can let it keep it. So Dan, let's see if this movie has the sense that God gave a lemon. It's time to test our hindsight with the verdict. Against Born on the 4th of July, Dead Poets Society, Field of Dreams, and My Left Foot, was Driving Miss Daisy the best movie nominated this year? I know your answer is no, but which of these four, just going with the nominees, would you give it to over Driving Miss Daisy?
Oh. 3 of them are better.
Yeah.
And again, this may be I saw it at the age where most of the characters are that age. I believe Dead Poet Society is an amazing film. I believe I believe 2 non-nominated movies are better than Daisy. We haven't gotten to them.
We're talking just the nominees.
From this list, I'm going to say Dead Poet Society is the best movie there.
Okay. I'm going to say Born on the 4th of July.
Yeah, it's close.
It's a tight. So a conversation you probably don't remember. You and I had a conversation about biopics. This was in the early 2000s, where there were a lot of biopics that I felt, and I think you agreed, had really good performances, but the movie surrounding it was kind of asleep at the wheel. Not that they were bad, but it was just a good performance. I won't name names, but there were a number of movies in the early 2000s where it was like, oh, this person's great. And I'm like, I agree, but there's nothing happening with the movie. And you helped me formulate a list that has since grown, and this is on my letterboxd. I had said like Raging Bull and Goodfellas, and you said Malcolm X, and I was like, oh my god, Malcolm X! How could I forget that? I think Born on the 4th of July is in that league of an incredibly, I'll say, career best performance, but the movie surrounding it is equally. Yes, it's a director's vision. It isn't just people saying, wow, Tom Cruise is really good in this movie, and then them not doing anything, or not being, more to the point, not being given anything to do. So in our Platoon episode, I talked about how I thought that Platoon, while it was good, was a gateway to not only better Vietnam movies, but better Vietnam movies directed by Oliver Stone. And this is, I think this is the success of Platoon made this movie possible because the studios thought, oh, there's money to be made, tying back to your original point that we talked about. And I think getting the biggest movie star in the world who really wanted to do it helped. But I think that this is everything that comes in between. Like, I think Oliver Stone is really pretty much at the peak of his powers here. I think that this movie has such an epic sweep, but it's so brutal. It's so unrelenting. Like, you got emotional a minute ago talking about there's so many moments in this movie that wreck me in a similar way. Yeah. And they're moments of intensity and violence but they're also moments of just sadness. And I mean, I think this movie, Tom Cruise has never been better than he's been in this movie. Yeah. And this to me is such a powerful story, and again feels very relevant. And I think it's, but unlike Platoon, I think Stone and Robert Richardson, who grew along with him, it just has a really more muscular and epic approach, and it's got this incredible John Williams score, which just like sort of elevates it. Of like, okay, this is like the greatest composer in cinema history. Yeah. And his theme is incredible. Like the John Williams' serious work, meaning his work for serious movies, unless Spielberg is involved, is always kind of forgotten. But I think, and I think he might even be Oscar nominated for this. But this movie is just devastating. And I do agree, all 4 of the movies that Driving Miss Daisy is nominated against are all better. So this is my pick, but I saw My Left Foot for the first time. I always avoided it, and it was the only one of these I hadn't seen, and I watched it, and I think the movie's good. I think Daniel Day-Lewis is absolutely incredible, and I just never saw this performance. And Dead Poets and Field of Dreams are movies I kind of grew up with, and so it's weird. It's like 3 of these movies are great. One of them is pretty good. And then Driving Miss Daisy, we know how I feel about that. So it's like, that's not so terrible if you're looking at it in terms of, it isn't like 5 movies that are boring and unwatchable. And Driving Miss Daisy, I didn't say this when we talked about it, there's a big editing narrative on this podcast. The fact that this is 99 minutes, applause. To do, you know what I'm saying? Because if this were made today, it might have more progressive racial politics, but it'd be 2 hours and 43 minutes without blinking. And you'd be like, oh, we could cut. I mean, you got to give Miss Daisy.
Oh, I love how short brevity. It is. It's
because I'm stunned. I was like 99 minutes. I was like, holy shit.
How long can you have people just riding around in a car?
Right, like, but if this were made today, it would be better, but it would be an hour longer.
Well, you know that the play probably had an intermission and was probably 2.5 hours.
Sure.
I mean, it'd be really interesting, the running time of the original stage production of Driving Miss Daisy. But that's totally fair. By the way, Dead Poet Society is literally by a hair over Born on the 4th of July. And when I think about it, I feel the dreams. But we're getting a morsel of how the vote might have been split. Yeah. Whereas, like, well, the one thing that covered racial stuff and hatred and prejudice and all that, like, well, that's really, we have an anti-war movie. Yeah. And Field of Dreams is it's about dead dads and America, Americana, And Dead Poet Society is really about like trying to stop kids from growing up to be horrible people.
And a dad you wish would die.
Right.
Neil's dad.
Right.
That's a dad
But
I would be happy to.
But like, oh, there's a chance for you guys.
Right.
You're being funneled into a horrible world of you know, you're going to be a hamster wheel just like everyone else, but you're going to be a privileged hamster wheel just like everyone else. You're going to live in these little buttoned up, you're going to live between these guardrails the rest of your freaking life. And that's no way to live. And this hint that maybe they'll learn something, they'll find courage to not be just like their dads. To be just like, we don't have to be just like our dads. Right. But you know, there's one that even smacked of like, I mean, there's two that smacked of cause related because we could finally talk about Vietnam, frankly, after Platoon. Well, 13 years after the Vietnam officially. Like, what was that? So Platoon
14 years,
right. So we could finally like, okay, let's talk honestly about Vietnam. And
well, Kaylan Egan, who was on the Platoon episode, and this ties into what you're saying, not just about Born on the 4th of July. What's the story that Hollywood wants to tell about itself? And the story they want to tell about itself is that like racism, we fixed it. You know, which is why Crash wins way later in 2005. And it's I think you can say that about every win. What is a story we want to tell about ourselves? Even if you look, The Godfather, which we could probably agree is deserving to win. It's gonna be the worst episode of this podcast. You know, but what's the story we want to tell about ourselves? We're a new Hollywood. We make movies with balls. We make movies that like push the envelope. We make movies that change the face of fucking cinema. Casablanca, the same thing. This is the best movie ever made, or everyone's saying that, you know, like this is what we're about now. We're like, you know, Casablanca is a studio movie that's incredibly well written. It's an assembly line movie that doesn't feel that way. So I think every 98 of these movies is the story that Hollywood wants to tell about itself. And sometimes that story is true and sometimes it isn't.
The resonance of moments. The resonance of Carpe Diem. The resonance of the Field of Dreams baseball speech, you know, baseball. It's always been like the resonance of if you build it, they will come. My buddy Victor called me and said, look, I wasn't planning on moving back to LA, but I got this great lease. I don't have a job yet, but I got this great lease on a place in Mid-City. So I moved back. And I just said, if you lease it, the job will come. Cultural imprint of something matters. And like those things. So those films, they had an imprint that's proven way stronger, other than infamy.
Well, Dead Poets and Field of Dreams specifically, those two are still part of popular culture.
100%.
I mean, Born on the 4th of July, I don't think is.
No, for sure.
But there's nothing. But I mean, look, Driving Miss Daisy is part of popular culture. It may not be positive,
right?
But people, I mean, there was a line. I never thought I'd bring up, you know, this movie on this podcast. There's a line in the first Bad Boys movie where one of them says, "You drive almost slow enough to drive Miss Daisy." You know, so like the idea of someone that's a, you know, just that idea of like an old woman in the back of the car who won't let you go fast. Like,
in my show Clean Slate, there's a scene where George Wallace's character is teaching Laverne Cox's character how to drive. Laverne's been in Manhattan for decades, right? So it's like teaching how to drive, and she's complaining she has to get to her hair appointment. You're like, oh, I'm sorry, Miss Daisy. Like a whole thing. Right. It has, other than like,
and nobody said I don't get that reference.
Not right. No, right.
That's a reference. There's these things you might not know that Carpe Diem. I mean, it wasn't invented for Dead Poet Society, but you might not know that what Dead Poet Society is about, but you know there's a movie called Dead Poet Society where it's a bunch of kids in a prep school and they stand on their desks and Ethan Hawke is in it. And you know that If You Build It, He Will Come is about Kevin Costner in a baseball field. Like, you know sort of totemically what these things are. And Driving Miss Daisy, I guess more than Born on the 4th of July, is that way. And I mean, My Left Foot kind of rises and falls on the Daniel Day-Lewis performance, which is incredible. I think the pop cultural imprint there is just like, oh, this was the first time that most of us had heard of DDL, and the incredible commitment, the physical transformation.
Yeah.
Because I think him winning, I mean, Cruise wins the Golden Globe. I don't know if Cruise was the favorite going into Oscar night, but I think that was a little bit of not a shock, but it was also like, oh, now this dude who most of us had never heard of, is now going to be, you know, anointed as the best actor ever. And boy, is he.
So interesting, My Left Foot thing.
Okay.
In 2015, they asked the Academy to revote that year.
Oh, I think I remember this.
They asked a number of, I don't know if they could ask the entirety of the Academy, but they said
No.
re-vote on those nominees. So Do the Right Thing was not included.
Sure.
It
These
was
5 movies we're
re-vote
talking about.
those 5 movies, and My Left Foot won Best Picture.
No kidding.
And that was a reaction to, oh yeah, Driving Miss Daisy, we got some things wrong.
Sure.
And that was problematic in X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
I am going to assert if you reheld that vote, the winner would not be My Left Foot.
No.
Due to cripping and an able-bodied actor.
Oh, cripping, explain that. I think I know from the
Cripping
context.
is a term for an actor pretending to have a physical or mental disability.
Okay.
Cripping is the slang for it.
So that would
And we have tried to, and a dear friend of mine, Amber Seeley, made a movie called Out of My Mind for Disney, which was based on this young adult novel about, I'm not going to claim, I believe it's a cerebral palsy, but forgive me if I got the exact malady wrong. And it was a really specific casting process to get it right.
So they cast somebody who had that.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yes. I mean, I don't know how Sling Blade holds up now. I don't know how. So there's a version of cripping has become the term. And
so that would apply to 4th of July as well.
I mean, exactly. At some point, what happens to that character? I mean, now that's a role that is split half and half. Gary Sinise in Forrest Gump.
Good point, because he has to be able-bodied in the beginning.
Football or whatever he's doing. And
so it doesn't apply to Born on the 4th of July.
No, but to play your entire thing is I'm playing this famously
disabled,
this way. Right? And now, and so it's a great question to ask. And I know that many actors have been asked about this and say they would never do that now. And that was something that was an acceptable practice at a certain point.
That's so interesting. I hadn't thought about
that. And Robert Downey Jr.'s character in Tropic Thunder is joking about it. Like, you can play, if you play all the way.
Right.
Yeah. You got to play.
Yeah.
There's a version where you're fishing for an Oscar if you play that. And there was a time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that performance wasn't so well done. What's Eating Gilbert Grape is one of my guilty pleasure movies. It's an incredible freaking movie. And Leo DiCaprio in that announces himself to the world as, holy shit, this kid's going to be a giant, amazing actor, but is playing, a character with a disability. And so it's just an interesting conversation. I don't believe My Left Foot would win if they redid it.
Did they vote on Best Actor in this thing? Or
no, it was just for
Best Picture. Okay.
It was just for Best Picture.
That's interesting. Yeah. So I think there's just more. I think in 1989 there just was no. I don't think there were any actors who had Christy Brown's condition. I don't know. I don't know if he has cerebral palsy. Whatever his condition is.
Yeah.
That may still be the case, but it's interesting. Yeah, because I mean, Tom Hanks said it's not quite the same thing, that he would never play the role he played in Philadelphia because he's not gay.
Yeah.
And he feels like it just wouldn't be accepted. It wouldn't be appropriate.
Right. So at one point it seemed like, wow, what a transformational performance by actor X has become cringe.
Right.
Like, oh no, you needed to find. But then as a producer or a bean counter, if you were like, no, I need this actor to pay for this movie.
Right.
And how do you, so it's like.
It's interesting how Cruise is absolved of that for the reason that you said, because you would have to be able-bodied up until he gets his injury. So you would have to switch the role, which could be interesting. You'd have to have another actor play him from like not even the midpoint, from like Act 2, midpoint to Act 2 on. That might be how you have to do it. Kind of like Moonlight, where you have 3 different actors play the same part.
Right.
That's me off the top of my head.
At some point, they say there wasn't a Latinx actor who could do what Charlton Heston did,
right?
Or there wasn't a gay actor who could do what Tom Hanks did or get the money that Tom Hanks did, right? And so then you just enter this world where, authentic storytelling, it's not always the most bankable route, but is it the most ethical route to just say, but then actors, if you got an actor. You gave them a few mint juleps and had them talking frankly, would they say, look, if I can play that, then I can play that. It used to be that I would be able to, that was part of the transformation. And it's very interesting, but I don't believe My Left Foot would win a revote of that revote, because that was 11 years ago. And I think even since then, if a lot of actors divesting of those of their performances in certain things, I would never do that now. I would never do that now.
I like how you said mint julep and keep with the Southern fried.
I did. I wanted
this.
to keep it.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't think that was an accident. So speaking of authentic, it's time for the appeal. Dan, I know the answer. Was this the best movie of the year, period? Which I know you already know the answer is no, so I'll just phrase it a different way. Dan, what was the best movie or movies of 1989, nominated or not?
Okay. Okay. I have a lot to say about this, but let's start with the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is Do the Right Thing.
Sure.
Which was acknowledged almost immediately as the elephant in the room. And Kim Basinger, to her credit, got up at the Oscars and said, we've got 5 great films here, and they're great for one reason, because they tell the truth. But there is one film missing from this list that deserves to be on it. Because ironically, it might tell the biggest truth of all, and that's Do the Right Thing. To big applause.
And she was shaking.
She was shaking.
She was very nervous. I don't think she was nervous because she was nervous about saying the canned shit they wrote for her. This was not something that was scripted.
No. And it was a bold, badass.
Yeah.
Athens, Georgia. Shout out to Kim Basinger.
Yeah.
For her to get up there and say that, because you are talking about an academy that you depend on to nominate you for your next role, hopefully, and to think of you kindly. And so you're getting up at their party. They're throwing a big old party, and you're getting up at their party saying, y'all got it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah. I forgot about this. I remember when it happened, and I've heard it, sort of called out mainly in a positive way. It's sort of like people just going off script at the Oscars. It's always like in those like little mashable things of like.
And by the way, it's just, I mean, to be honest, this is all symptomatic of white people running things.
Sure.
The numbers don't lie. With what was it, 94% white as late as 2012. And it is completely and utterly, this is what interests me. Something that interests me is that, ironically, a very similar thing was happening with the Recording Academy and the Grammys.
Oh, really?
At the time. Literally involving the opening song of Do the Right Thing. The percentage of white people in charge of the Academy at the time was mirrored, slightly to a lesser degree, but still mirrored by the Recording Academy and the Grammys.
Okay.
Which brings me to the opening song of Do the Right Thing, Fight the Power by Public Enemy. So simultaneously, as the Academy was shitting the bed on Do the Right Thing, Public Enemy was losing Best Rap Performance to Young MC's Bust a Move.
Really?
And if you follow both the Academy, Recording Academy, and the Academy, have both undergone a massive changes to their membership, endeavoring to add diversity to their membership, because it just, I believe we are looking at, but with this specific year, we are looking at a real turning point.
And the decade's turning point. This is 1990. When these awards are happening, it's 1990. So it's not accidental that like people, it's a new decade. People look at that as a reset.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like, so what was happening, the Grammy membership, the people not necessarily knowing how to hear Black music, same as with Black stories.
Right.
Not knowing what to make of a Black storyteller, not knowing what to make of Chuck D versus Young MC.
Right.
And Young MC is talking about, okay, Smarty, go to a party. And it's like it's like a fun little happy song.
There's nothing dangerous about it.
And Chuck D is just,
Yeah. Right.
Elvis was a hero to most, but he never meant shit to me. Like,
right.
Fucking. And Spike Lee started Do the Right Thing with fucking that.
And the first line of it is 1989. Like it's
right.
So it's like
right.
it's like it's saying this moment
right
now. This is what we're talking about.
Wildly interesting to me because I had the only all hip hop rap show at my college on the radio station.
I think I remember you telling me about
this. And it was, to me,
you went to college in the South as well?
No, I went to college at Denison University in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
I ended up getting, they took very good care of me and flew me up there and they were very nice to me and I needed a lot of scholarship money. So that was very cool.
Okay.
But so to watch Young MC and like DJ Jazzy Jeff, Parents Just Don't Understand, get these accolades from largely white audiences of old white people trying to make sense of rap music.
Right.
I feel like if the average member of the Academy was 73 and white
Right.
when they saw Do the Right Thing. And I think a fun group of spicy whites understood it to some degree. I remember my grandma Betty saying, Daniel, I just read in the Philadelphia Inquirer about this movie, Do the Right Thing. I want to go see it. And took my cousins and I to go see Do the Right Thing in theaters.
Oh, wow.
And I was young, you know?
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
Yeah.
She got it.
Yeah.
She got it. But I think the vast majority of people didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah.
And that's how something gets slept on and becomes the splash of water in the face. And I feel like I'm having a go at the Academy, but I did want to point out that of just the most recent invited class to be members of the Academy.
Oh, interesting.
41% are women. 45% are from underrepresented communities. And those numbers have been improving every year.
Okay.
Because they realize we're leaving all kinds of storytelling. We don't have a diversity of lenses here watching these nominees, deciding what's nominated.
Yeah.
Your question, which I found a way to not talk about for the longest time,
it's okay,
is the other great movies. And first of all, the Academy did this thing where the only rom-coms it would even sniff were Woody Allen movies because Woody Allen was in the club.
Right.
When Harry Met Sally, we're talking about cultural imprint and holds up and is a real beautiful rom-com.
And is nominated for Best Original Screenplay along with Sex Lies and Do the Right Thing.
100%.
So the writer's branch is on top of it.
Right, 100%.
Okay.
I believe Rob Reiner got nominated for a BAFTA. He got nominated elsewhere for Best Director.
Right, but not here.
But not here.
No.
I think that, but I contend if that were a Woody Allen movie, Annie Hall, the line between Annie Hall and When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah, very thin.
Very thin. If Woody Allen made When Harry Met Sally, that would have been nominated. I promise you. Because Woody Allen, especially in 1989, was at the height of his whatever. He's
nominated this year for Best Director for one of his best movies.
Crimes and Misdemeanors?
Yeah, Crimes and Misdemeanors. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to give a shout out to When Harry Met Sally and Rob Reiner.
Yeah.
Guy named Cameron Crowe dropped a movie called Say Anything.
His first movie.
And teen movies get their eyes rolled at. Say Anything was a layered movie. There's an amazing story of the father who's been embezzling money from his nursing home residents. And sorry.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful movie.
I agree.
I can't believe I'm crying over Say Anything, but it's a really good movie.
It's okay.
And that moment, like intergenerational, like how could you, Dad? And realizing your parents are fallible and like there's shit happening. And I think we would then see what Cameron Crowe is capable of and be taken more seriously.
Right.
But I believe Say Anything was a slept on movie. From this, you'll never see. I'm just giving shout outs to great movies from this year. It was an incredible year.
No, that's the show. Do
it. Heathers.
Yeah.
You obviously will never see something like Heathers get considered in something like this.
I mean, it involves a guy running around a kid running around a high school. Yeah, like murdering.
Attempting to murder the entire school by fake suicide note. It's dark.
Yeah.
And it's an important comedy.
I completely agree.
I literally saw Heathers the musical in New York City. It was incredible. Heathers lives on.
Yeah, Heathers is like Dr. Strangelove, but for like teen movies and more culty because Strangelove was nominated for a bunch of Oscars. Not that that's the only rubric, but go ahead. Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
Yeah. You already mentioned it.
Yeah.
Such an important movie in independent cinema history.
Yeah.
This goes the other thing where comedies get kind of nudged out of the way. Parenthood was a pretty amazing comedy. Ambitious.
Yeah.
So many different characters, different generations. I loved Parenthood. And again, you're talking about something that lived on. Parenthood lived on in form of a show, and it like lived on and on. And Ron Howard.
Yeah.
You know, this is a Parenthood. The Academy had a type, you know. The Academy had a type. But by the way, okay, so the cheesiness line between, let's say, Field of Dreams and Steel Magnolias, kind of thin. I think Steel Magnolias is actually a rather slept on.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Julia Roberts gets some love for it.
She's nominated for
Yeah,
Best Supporting
she's nominated for
Actress,
Best
and that's the
Supporting. It's
first
one of those
thing
where it's like, yeah.
I'd seen the movie Satisfaction, where she's in a band with Justine Bateman and Liam Neeson's in it. I'm sure
Right.
Julia Roberts is thrilled. I'm sure A, she's listening. I'm sure B,
that.
she's like, she's throwing her phone across the room like, I'm done listening to Ed because he mentioned Satisfaction. But I'm just saying I knew who she was, and then Pretty Woman comes out like 6 months later, and then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Like,
Right.
but yeah.
No, I'm just talking about movies that I feel like are in the, if you imagine a dartboard, like I feel like, you know what?
Yeah.
That's a slept on movie. But this brings me to, honestly, the thing that excited me the most was the opportunity to bring this up, because as the Academy has grown and become more mature, and able to wrap its head around nominating different kinds of stories, and wow, a vampire movie got the most nominations of all time this year. Not only that, but a black vampire movie about, you know, the music of marginalized people throughout history, and the interaction, you know, the intersection of that, and like, oh my God, the idea of like they're never gonna let you get over, so become a vampire. Like, powerful ideas.
Very much so, yeah.
But along the way, we saw a movie, Parasite, get Best Picture, where finally, and by the way, a huge thing that the Academy has done is make a concerted effort to have more international members.
Yeah, I mentioned that every
shout
episode.
Shout out to Lynette Howell Taylor, my friend. Our kids are good friends. They were all in school together, and she's the head of the Academy now. Is it president? I'm trying to remember what the office is.
Oh,
sorry,
I didn't know that. You know somebody who's that high up.
You know, and still answers my calls, which is nice. No, she just became that. So now she's killing it. She's an amazing producer. She's made many amazing movies.
Right.
But they are busting their asses to diversify and to be more about the world cinema and all that. But so Parasite, foreign language movie. Oh yeah, but a very difficult movie. But class war and dark and all that wins. The best movie of this year that we are discussing, the best movie, and maybe the best movie of all time, Giuseppe Tornatore's Cinema Paradiso. Okay. Right? And great argument that Do the Right Thing should win Best Picture from this year. But Cinema Paradiso, if you haven't seen it, it is a love letter to movies that is the most, I mean, fetal position sobbing for the last 45 minutes of the movie. It is the most beautifully told movie about, for people who love movies, Cinema Paradiso is it. And it's interesting because I think it's the one thing Harvey Weinstein ever did right, because there was an original cut that was way too long.
Yeah.
And I know this because I found the original cut, which was for a while really hard to find. But this movie was something like 2 hours and 40 minutes long. And Weinstein, I mean, Miramax got a hold of it and they did a cut. And when I saw the longer part, I thought, wow, they really cut it perfectly.
Yeah.
They trimmed it perfectly, which sometimes happens once in a while.
Right.
They were right because they left things to the imagination that are more powerful.
Right.
If left to the imagination. I'm not going to give away plot holes, but what's fascinating to me, the greatest achievement in cinema, the greatest story in cinema of this year happened to be foreign language at a time when foreign language movies would never, ever sniff the main stage.
And this is your favorite movie of all time?
Of all time.
Oh, wow.
Of all time. If you haven't, you're a cinema lover?
I haven't seen it. It's a gap for me. I haven't avoided it.
No, it is.
I have gaps. People always say, Ed, you seen every movie ever made? And to a layman, that may seem true, but when I get around people like other filmmakers like yourself, I don't have an excuse. It's just a gap. I mean, this podcast has exposed me to some gaps, but
it's a run, don't walk. It's so, and you as a film lover, as a cineast,
no, I have to
will faint.
Yeah.
And it's that good. And the idea that both Do the Right Thing and Cinema Paradiso both were sitting there while Driving Miss Daisy, you know, I mean, there were a lot of amazing movies from that year, and that I have a soft spot for.
Yeah.
But that Yeah, Cinema Paradiso is just it's my favorite movie of all time.
That's
That being
so
said, I showed my children Do the Right Thing. One time I showed my children Do the Right Thing the second they were old enough to see Do the Right Thing. They've
what
seen
age
them
is
both.
that? What's old?
4. No, 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 no. It was 12.
12? Really? Okay.
It was 12. I thought they could handle it at 12.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it depends on the kid.
No, I know, but yeah, do the right thing. Obviously, we've talked about it almost as much as we talked about Miss Daisy. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously something that sadly hasn't lost any cultural relevance. I thought a lot about it during the George Floyd thing.
Yeah.
It was my only opportunity to think about it. Yeah.
There's a little bit more about the lens, white lens, and the lens of storytelling I want to say.
Sure.
So I got to work with Norman Lear.
Yeah.
He'd pass while we were editing our show. Clean slate. Prime Video. Laverne Cox, George Wallace. We created it together. Laverne, George, and I created it together. Norman read it and said, "Can I please produce it?" It was amazing.
Yeah.
Norman's what you people describe as his heyday. Good Times, Jefferson's. That was a time when there were very few black voices in the writing room, or directing, or producing. And these are valid. It's valid criticism to look back and say, wow, these were almost exclusively white people telling the story of J.J. Walker's family,
right,
and George Jefferson's family. And I'm proud to say that Norman Lear's final comedy, which was a black story, which was a trans story, queer story, every writer's room hire, every director hire were non-cis het white people.
What's the term? Cis? What's the middle third? What's het?
Heterosexual.
Oh, okay. I
No,
never heard
right.
that abbreviation.
Right. We had
Cis
two first-time trans directors. We intentionally, thoughtfully, mindfully, and with Norman the entire way. And I think it's important because when you read Blowback Against Norman Lear, it's that he was playing in a sandbox as a guest in that sandbox.
But he was enabling it to happen. He was not single-handedly.
100%, and no one would take away that George Jefferson existed and that Good Times existed and all that. And that's the complication of the discussion.
Sure.
It's like, wow, so what was that writer's room like?
Sure.
That was 14 white guys. Okay? And that's being part of that time.
Yeah, in 1970, whatever it was.
This whole conversation is about what was at the time. What was in 1989? What was it? Well, wow. You mean you're telling me 97% white group body of judges was deciding what the best thing was?
Yeah.
You're telling me a 82% white body of average 62-year-old judges was deciding Young MC's Bust a Move was a better song than Public Enemy's Fight the Power? And so we're talking about the white lens throughout creative history,
right,
in filmmaking and music. And it's funny, I'm a white guy talking about this. I feel like a guest even talking about it. But
you're allowed to talk about it.
We see that, us knowing, hey, in 2025, you cannot tell this trans black and queer story with all character in this neighborhood about this thing and not have authentic storytellers delivering it.
Right.
Now, so when I look at those numbers and think, well, how could they have decided that? How could they have given out? How could X not have been nominated for Best Picture? And how could Al Pacino for Scent of a Woman? By the way, quote unquote, cripping as a blind person.
Right. Well, but that's
I know. But
it's
if we're talking about fair criticism of when you have, I'm just saying, I see how it could happen.
Yeah.
What's amazing that the Norman Lear stuff from the 70s and 80s was that good.
Right. And then he was so open to change because you were probably at his 100th birthday, right? Didn't he turn 100?
I was there, yeah. He was 101 when he passed.
Right.
Yeah,
so
his 100th birthday.
Right. So he literally entered a second century of his life.
Yeah, yes, and you can honor, 100%. And you can honor what he did, the importance in front of camera was undeniable.
Mhm.
The families in front of camera, people who looked like you in front of the camera and on TV, and the number 3 show and all of the number 3, 5, and 7 shows in all of TV are people who look like me, and like hugely important, hugely important.
Yeah.
But when people throw little stones at it, it is about, okay, but the hiring, the voices telling those stories,
Right.
there was a little bit of guesstimation, or there were actors
Right.
that were authentic enough to be like, hey, let's try it like this. I'm going to try it like this. I'm going to say it like this. I'm going to do, and so it has been an evolution in the arts.
Yeah.
On the, not just, and the changes that the Academy has made to the demographics of judging are also the changes we have in our best cases tried to endeavor to make behind the camera in writers' rooms.
Yeah.
And this is also a weird time because we have a lot of blowback against that from Washington, D.C. And so literally finding out McCarthy style that a place had a program to hopefully graduate showrunners of color. And like, that's not a crime. In fact, to act like that's reverse racism when, as we see, the membership of the Academy was 96% in 2012 or not
that long ago.
That's not that long ago.
Obama's in the White House at that point.
And right. And so you see how slowly some of this creaks forward, bit by bit. But so I just wanted to speak to the Norman Lear of it because that's an interesting example of someone approximating, someone importantly putting marginalized groups in front of the camera. But even there was obviously improvement to make behind the camera. And a different story behind the camera, which he understood needed to change. He understood, that there was some sort of bottleneck where there weren't a lot of people who had broken through into writers' rooms from certain voices. Well, how can you? So you're just guesstimating what it was like for JJ to get in this situation and say the following thing to his friend on that scene. Like, you're kind of guesstimating. As a well-meaning, funny white guy. Right.
Well,
but so at any rate, it's important when we think of lens that how did something like Driving Miss Daisy win?
Absolutely. And you tied it in there perfectly. So my best movie of the year is a little different than the one you mentioned, but I want to just be kind of true to myself, which is the whole point of this podcast. So going a different direction with my best movie of the year, which you had not mentioned, although I think you probably like it. Well, in 1989, we have a really good mixture of like really vital, serious work, which you've run down a lot of it, and really kind of fun genre movies. I really have to be honest when I say that my favorite movie of 1989 is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
I know you so well. I know you so well. I was looking at the list and I just thought there's no way we're going to get through this podcast without you talking about The Last Crusade.
Okay.
Oh, go. Sorry.
Okay. No,
I'm
it's fine.
Wind you up. I'm reaching across the table.
You can wind me up. It's okay.
Go ahead. Let's go. I'm ready to hear it. I've been preparing myself.
Okay. Well, my next sentence is going to make you laugh even harder because so as not only the biggest James Bond fan in the world, but Sean Connery was my favorite actor. When I heard that there was going to be another Indiana Jones movie and that Sean Connery was going to be in it as Indy's dad, I just lost my mind. And this was like one of those rare things then and now where I was excited about something and it delivered. This isn't just confined to movies, just me being excited about a thing and the thing delivering. So, this isn't Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's not the best of the franchise, but I do think it's the best of the sequels. And I think what I like about it is that it resembles Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's like Nazis and it's like a fairly historical thing they're after. But I think there's two things about this movie that separate it from Raiders, that make it its own thing. One is the whole opening with River Phoenix, which I think is just incredible. It's just everything that Spielberg does really well. And Spielberg is coming off two really serious movies. He's coming off The Color Purple and Empire of the Sun, movie I know you love, which are both very good movies. So this is but Empire of the Sun was not a hit. It was one of his few non-hits. I don't think it was like a bomb. I don't think it lost money or anything, but it was not, you know, people
Yeah.
did not go out and see it.
Yeah.
Kind of understandably. I understand like that movie's a tough sell, as great as it is. So this was a little bit of like, okay, I'm going to do something safe. I think he was always going to do 3 Indiana Jones movies, but I think this opening, it's just great spectacle with like a really perfect comic touch. And I just love it. And somebody once said, this isn't like a fan, it's almost like a conspiracy theory that if River Phoenix had not died, he could have gone on playing Indiana Jones as like a young man, and there could have been like this parallel series. This I don't know if this was ever discussed, but thinking about that is like, wow, that would have been kind of modern, like this really great actor going into a franchise, but it being really, really fun. I don't know if this is ever discussed. It's something that somebody said on some idiot on a podcast like myself said it, and I just never forgotten it. The other thing about this movie that I think is really unique is just the dynamic between Harrison Ford and Sean Connery, just the father-son dynamic, which is hugely Spielbergian, and it's really fun here. I mean, there's like one scene that's like kind of serious where they have this confrontation, but it's really kind of magic. And Sean Connery has said this was the most fun he ever had making a movie, which that was very cool. So he's super into it. It's not a paycheck movie for him. He's in a really great place in his career because he just won the Oscar for The Untouchables. And it's like he finally sheds the shackles of Bond, and he's sort of this bankable movie star who's old, you know, like it's very rare. Like it's like, I'm an old man and I'm not hiding and I'm not dyeing my hair. You know, Clint Eastwood also turned into this kid. They're the exact same age. So, I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark, I talked about that movie a lot. We did a whole episode on Raiders in this season. That's a milestone, but if we're talking about the sequels, this is my favorite one. So,
look, I think it's really well done. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a third movie of a series that saves a series from its second installment more thoroughly than that one.
People love Temple of Doom though. Now, Temple of Doom is a funny.
In hindsight, you know,
Temple of Doom's a funny one. That's a discussion unto itself. I'll say this about Temple of Doom. I prefer Last Crusade to Temple of Doom, but Temple of Doom, Robert Zemeckis said this incredibly smart thing about sequels. He says, sequels are a lose-lose proposition because if you do something that's too different, everybody is like, well, where's the movie I liked? But if you do the same thing again, everyone's like, well, you just did the same thing again. And that's really, Temple of Doom is not Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's so different.
Yeah.
It's so like, it's like, what the fuck is going on? It's so, and I like that about it, but it Last Crusade recaptures a lot of the Raiders' magic, but also does its own thing, which is why I like it more. I mean, Temple of Doom has problems aside from that. I mean, it's like insanely violent and there's cultural, there's things involving children that are weird, and none of that's here in this movie. This movie has more of the joy of the first one, and so I mean,
was it nominated for anything?
I think like maybe the score and some sound stuff, like below the line.
Really?
Yeah. Well, now with 10 nominees, you could see this getting the Best Picture nomination.
By the way, I could see 100% with 10. By the way, I think that sequels are hard. Giant event movies are hard. I think they're harder to write than people realize.
Yeah. And this is a great script, too.
Marvel movies, for instance, there's some Marvel movies where it just feels like they really just threw it against the wall and see what stuck. And they're 3 hours long and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But I would contend that Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is a Star Wars level character action two-hander that delivers and was amazing. And I freaking think there is such a boldness to, by the way, and you're trying to pull off emotionality with action and laughter. It is a lot. You're serving a lot of masters in that regard. Yeah. And so, sorry, I don't know why I'm talking about Guardians, but
it's okay.
Beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Is Peter unable to even hold his mom's hand at the moment of her death via brain tumor.
Yeah, that's a very starkly emotional scene for a Marvel movie to open with.
The next scene is him lip syncing into a space rat's head.
Right.
And those scenes exist side by side successfully.
Yeah.
And there is a really jubilant and amazing breadth of human experience in a well done action comedy. And I think there's a lot of really funny stuff, interaction in Last Crusade.
Oh yeah, it's very
That
funny.
it's very funny. It's action, and then there's that heart, universal heart. Like, it's hard to do that well.
Yeah.
And so I would at least argue for a screenplay nomination.
Yeah, the script by Jeffrey Boehm is good, and I think it was polished by Tom Stoppard, who had written Empire of the Sun.
Yeah.
So sorry, Empire of the Sun. That sounded wrong when I said it. Empire of the Sun. I don't know why that sounded wrong when I said it out loud. Yeah. So it's a very good screenplay, and yeah, I think we would see a little bit more above the line love for a movie like this now.
Yeah.
Because I also think they're trying to, rightly or wrongly, include big budget things. I mean, with Sinners, it was lucky because it was a big budget thing that was successful, but had some meat on the bone. It didn't feel like, oh, this Hollywood thing. I would have liked to have seen more love for Weapons, which I thought was maybe the best movie of last year. I haven't seen everything yet, so I'm uneducated, but you know, I would have liked to have seen at least a screenplay nomination for that too.
Yeah.
But I think Amy Madigan, they figured like, okay, we're just going to cover it all with just honoring this performance.
The Academy definitely admitted they had a type of movie that was consistently being nominated.
Yeah.
And it alienated a lot of audience. So now they could have as many as 10, and any great movie from any type of genre can find itself in the Best Picture nominations, which is, it's good for viewership, I guess. And it's good for, by the way, it's good for when I ran off a list of things that I think in some revolving doors world where in 1989, the Academy was more open to other genres that would have been, would have gotten more attention.
So speaking of attention, our next category is Spotlight, where we spotlight something from any movie we liked from this year. It could be a performance, cinematography, a score, a stunt sequence. It could be a line of dialogue, anything from any movie this year, anything on that list or from a list you haven't mentioned.
Okay, here's a moment without a word spoken. I'm a horrible flyer. I contend the end of Say Anything is a masterful scene.
Yeah.
It's a cousin of the end of The Graduate, where they're on this bus, and who the fuck knows what's next? They're young people.
Yeah. Their
whole lives are ahead of them, but where will they head? And it's kind of got that. He knows he's accompanied her to Europe, and they're on this plane. As a nervous flyer, I wait for that seatbelt sign to go off.
The ding.
Yes. And I stare at that thing. I'm a bad flyer. So I don't know. That scene when they are together, waiting for that seatbelt sign to go off, I think is just beyond brilliant. And part of the reason why I Say Anything certainly rises above creatively most of the teen movie stuff fare that we saw from the 80s, which was comedy first. And I thought this was a very more true to Cameron Crowe type of thing. But for some reason that really jumped out at me as the seatbelt scene.
Yeah.
The seatbelt airplane.
Which ends the movie.
When you
hear the ding, it cuts to black. Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
Yeah. I'm going to go with 3 sequences by 3 different directors. And 2 of these directors are very famous auteurs. And the last director is a guy I'm not even sure we can call a journeyman. I think he's very anonymous, and I'll get to him last. So the first sequence is from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And I want to talk about the tank chase. So Sean Connery's being held by the Nazis inside this tank, and Indy's on horseback, and he's got to rescue him all while not being blown up by another tank. And Raiders of the Lost Ark has, him being chased by the boulder, which is like incredibly iconic. It has the truck chase, which is an incredible action sequence. This scene I'm talking about now doesn't have a pop cultural imprint. I think some things in Last Crusade is he chose poorly. That's its pop cultural imprint. He chose poorly. Yeah. That's what's famous from this movie. And that's fine. You have no control over that. But I think just as a piece of staging, as a piece of choreography, this is just never talked about. And Spielberg is tough because he's so good at this. And he's got, Saving Private Ryan and Jaws and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and he's got so much in his canon. This just gets not even disrespected, just not thought about. So I remember Premiere Magazine did this special, like a TV special, where it was like, here are the four big movies of 1989, and they did a whole thing on Batman, a whole thing on The Abyss, a whole thing on Lethal Weapon 2. But the first one was on The Last Crusade, but it was just about this tank chase. It was just a making of this tank. I don't know if you can find this on YouTube. It was really cool. And I guess they had rerun it because I'd already seen Last Crusade. That movie had already come out. So I must have seen this on like a rerun or something. I just remember it was like a Saturday night. I just stumbled upon this. I maybe even recorded it because I remember I used to watch the tape of this a bunch. And it was one of the first times I'd ever seen a behind the scenes of anything. Like like, here's how we built the tanks. Here's the cameras we're using. It was just like a real making of thing. So I have a special affinity for it. But yeah, it's just a great. I mean, I already talked about River Phoenix and the Sean Connery thing, but this is just, as far as a great action sequence, is really just fantastic and just not talked about a lot. Yeah. The movie is, but just this sequence alone, it's never, when people jaw about this movie, they never say the tank chase. It's always the stuff I talked about.
Yeah.
So that's one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Achievement.
Yeah. My second one couldn't be more different. My second one is a sequence from a movie called Skin Deep, which was directed by Blake Edwards. You might know this sequence. So I'd say until There's Something About Mary, which is 9 years later, one of the most iconic comedy sequences was the glow-in-the-dark condom scene from this movie. Do you know this movie? You know this scene?
Yes.
If you didn't know this movie, you knew there was a scene that had glow-in-the-dark condoms, and the ad campaign after the movie came out really started to lean into this.
Yeah.
So this was something that went viral before viral was even a thing. This was just a scene that people were talking about if they didn't see the movie. And I mentioned this movie. We did a whole episode on the movie S.O.B., which Blake Edwards made in 1981. It's earlier in this season. And I talked about how I think this is, for my money, the best movie about addiction that I've ever seen, because it's about addiction, but it's really, really funny. And the glow-in-the-dark condom sequence, so John Ritter, he's this womanizer, he's this alcoholic, and he's about to have sex with this woman, and he borrows her boyfriend's condoms, and then he comes out, and all you see is the condom.
Yeah.
It's totally, you know this scene, right?
Yeah.
And I remember seeing this movie in the theater with my dad, and the audience roared with laughter.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know this was going to be in there. I guess it wasn't in the trailers or anything. I can't speak to that, but it was just like, oh my God. And then this other guy comes in wearing a condom, and this was Blake Edwards' third to last movie, but it's his last great movie because he makes two movies after that are just terrible, frankly. He's already like in his late 60s here, and it was just like, but it's just, I think this might be the best sequence of his career, or certainly in there, because it's completely slapstick. It's a completely funny idea, and it's just brilliantly done. I'm recommending the movie, but I think you can see the sequence on YouTube, and I think out of context, it's really funny. You don't need to know anything about this. It explains it all to itself. So, and again, until There's Something About Mary with the famous hair thing, I think this really was like the comedy sequence that everybody talked about. And if there had been an internet back then or social media, it would have happened a lot more quickly. I think you would have heard about this movie more quickly. So yeah, that's one I wanted to shout out. And the last one, and boy, Dan's going to give me a hard time about this, is my last sequence, and that I want to talk about in 1989, is from the James Bond movie License to Kill.
Okay.
You knew this was coming.
I knew there was going to be a...
We're never far from Bond
James
on this
Bond.
podcast.
No, exactly.
So we've talked a lot about, and we always talk about how stunts were better in the 80s because there was no CGI and stunts were done by human beings, which I agree with. But I think what doesn't get talked about is that the stunts themselves, like how they're written, for lack of a better word, were really innovative. Like the conception of these stunts was better in the 80s and the 90s too, but certainly in the 80s. And I think that all five of the James Bond movies in the 80s have such incredible stunts, and they were all directed by a former editor and second unit director of the franchise. This guy's named John Glenn, who unfortunately is the same name as a very famous astronaut. And these stunts are just clever, like just conceptually. Like if you were to read the script or have an asshole like me describe them, be like, oh, that sounds exciting. He did 3 movies with Roger Moore's last 2 movies, including this one, were done by Timothy Dalton. And I think the 2 Dalton movies have the best stunt sequences of the entire franchise.
Right. And
my favorite stunt sequence in the entire franchise happens in License to Kill. And I actually think this is one of the best. This might be my favorite action sequence in history, in movie history. So I'm going to set up what's going on, and I'm going to ask you, Dan, if I should give away what happens or tease what happens, because I'm on the fence about this. I've never asked this of a guest before. But here's the setup. So Bond is underwater, and he's fighting a bunch of villains. He's got a scuba tank on.
Okay.
And one of them cuts his regulator, which we've seen in other Bond movies.
Yeah.
So he's losing air. Right. And there's like a bunch of guys on him. There's like 3, 4 guys he's fighting. He's losing air. He's got however long he's got before he drowns. And he escapes from this. Now, my question to you, Dan, is I can describe how he escapes, which is what I think is the best action sequence of all time, but that would spoil the surprise. But I don't know if you could YouTube this without spoiling the surprise. And I think, so what my question for you is, should I just say what happens?
Oof.
Yeah, it's tough.
I think say what happens.
Okay, that's where, okay, so.
If they missed it, this is a long time. If
no,
they
you're
haven't
right.
seen it, they deserve the spoiler.
Okay, so how Bond gets underwater is he kills a guy with like a harpoon gun that has like a, like a rope attached to it. And the guy falls in, everyone's shooting at him. He jumps in, grabs this guy's tank, which is low on, because the guy just came out of the water. And he like messes up a whole drug deal. So these guys dive down. So there's a bunch of them, and they cut his regulator. So he's about to drown. A seaplane, it's been established, is going above. He takes the harpoon. He shoots into one of the, what do you call those things? Like one of the skids.
Yeah.
It pulls him up. Then he surfaces, and then he ends up water skiing behind the plane.
Right.
It's incredible. Right. He breaks the wake, and he jumps onto the plane. The plane takes off with him hanging underneath it, throws the guys out, steals the plane. The plane is filled with $4 million in money, which is a huge thing for the second half of this movie.
Okay.
This was all done. I mean, the worst thing you could say is that like there's some rear projection scenes of Dalton hanging out of the plane, which aren't terrible, but just it's not him. He's not Tom Cruise.
Right.
But that's up to the standard. But
wow.
I think the entire movie is filled with incredible action sequences, and it's the rare Bond movie, and I bitch about this every time a new one comes out, even though I like the new ones, where the biggest action sequence of the movie, which is not the one I just described, happens at the end. The end of this movie is a chase through these really mountain winding roads with 18-wheelers and 18-wheelers going. Have you seen this movie? Do you remember it?
No, I don't remember it.
Okay. I think License to Kill is the most underrated movie of the franchise.
Oh, wow.
It's not perfect. It's got a dog shit final scene.
Oh.
It's just tone deaf to the rest of the movie.
Got it.
And I don't like the song, and I don't like the opening credits. But if you just docket something from the beginning and the end, it is just an incredibly and it's a very, at the time, it's Bond going rogue. His friend is fed to the sharks and survives. His wife is murdered, and he goes rogue.
Right.
So it was a very different thing for the time.
Right. He's not staying on mission.
He goes rogue,
right.
And that happens a little more in the Craig one, so that kind of loses. But anyway, I think so. Those are 3 sequences by 3 different directors. 2 of them are action. One of them is, I guess, still action, but involves glow-in-the-dark condoms. And yeah. So if you thought of anything you wanted to add to your spotlights?
1000%. I'd like to spotlight 2 things. The first thing I want to spotlight is Field of Dreams. And I'm going to cry during it.
Okay.
Because, he is going to lose his home. He has this supernatural force has told him to build a baseball field.
Yeah.
It's literally getting foreclosed on. And Shoeless Joe Jackson appears on the field, and these ghosts of these former players which is magical and amazing.
Right.
But really, it's leading up to the moment where his father shows up.
Yeah.
And that, it sounds like when you describe it, it sounds so cheesy. Like they'll have one last game of catch
Right.
with your dad, like introduce your dad to their grandchild.
Yeah.
Like my father missed meeting his grandchildren, meeting my children by a year and a half.
Oh.
It's a killer moment.
Yeah.
And kind of bewildered dad who suddenly has appeared in this cornfield in Iowa and is meeting his daughter-in-law,
right,
and meeting his grandchild and having a catch with his son. It's just, it's, if you get it in a big way. It's one of those, so I would say that moment of Field of Dreams is a stellar emotional moment.
Yeah, Kevin Costner said in an interview that's a moment that slays men.
Yeah, 100%.
Not that women are, but like that's he knew that movie worked because men have relayed, as you just did to me, the power of that moment.
Yeah,
the whole movie too, but particularly. It's a perfect final movie moment, like Say Anything.
And the inexplicable allure of guys hitting a ball with a stick and running around bases, which is just its own weird thing that baseball has. But yeah, but with a 76% male Academy at the time, well, probably even higher at the time.
Yeah.
You'd think, it certainly explains the nomination for Field of Dreams. They really should have shown up a little in honor of their dead dads. If they had voted in a few more percentage, they might have caught Driving Miss Daisy. But undersold line and moment from Heathers, which is a movie in the 80s.
Yeah.
And gay men especially were thrown under the bus in the 80s in a really brutal way. And there's a moment in Heathers at the funeral of the two jocks where the dad gets up and says, "My son's a homosexual and I love him. I love my dead gay son," like proudly. And Christian Slater says, "I wonder how he would have reacted to a gay son with a pulse."
Is that what he says? Yes. Christian Slater?
Yes.
Oh, I know. I always misheard that line. I know the moment you're talking about.
And so the idea
that's what Slater says.
Oh, suddenly in death, I can be proud of if I had a gay kid.
Oh.
It's an amazing. It's during a dark comedy, but because he's totally right. He's lost that kid. Right. But if that kid had come to him and said, we were existing at a time, this movie was at a time that that kid had come to him,
said he was
gay.
This
is in Ohio, and he'd come to him and said, "Guess what, Dad? So listen, I got to tell you something." How would he have reacted?
And this kid actually is. The irony is that this kid's not gay.
Right? No,
they made it look that way.
They made it look that way.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a really interesting and important line, especially when you consider contextually. We're coming out of the 80s. We're turning right. There was a lot of
there's no gay characters in any of the John Hughes movies. As progressive as they were in a lot of ways, and there's been a lot of ink spilled how they're regressive in some ways. But not John Hughes wasn't interested or didn't feel he had the power to go near that.
Right. No near that at all. And ironically, is they could only fake go near that, and they plant mineral water and this fake note, blah blah blah. But what's ironic is even with the fake gay note, it stumbles upon this moment of truth.
That's so interesting. I wonder. I never heard that take on that moment before, and I think you're dead on. I think that's so interesting that it's done. It's done. It's a lie because these people have made it look this way, but that it's still very genuine that this very alpha male kind of football. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna make the point again for you.
The idea is this toxic guy
regrets
wrap his head around it
when his kid is dead.
Right.
And I never heard. I guess I never heard that's what Slater said.
Yeah.
I know he whispers and says something, and then the kid's sister sees them laughing.
Yes.
And then I always remember that part of the moment. And Winona Ryder it's like, oh, I'm so ashamed. Because
Yeah,
I'm
the
laughing.
gravity of what they've done.
Right. It's sort of like she pushes it away. So I guess I don't remember what. So Slater says, I wonder how he would have reacted
to a gay kid with a pulse.
Yeah.
Was the line.
So Slater is kind of saying what you're saying is just like, like this is too late.
Right. And again, and also in the movie in general, responding to how in death we either idealize or change how, there's this rewriting that happens, revision. I want one more movie. You could leave it on the cutting room floor if you want. But we're talking about Sex, Lies, and Videotape. We're talking about Do the Right Thing. And it's a movie. It's a genre that never gets nominated. But we have to mention Roger and Me from this year.
Michael Moore, yeah.
Because hugely important for this freaking dude from Michigan to make this documentary about class.
Yeah.
I will... looking forward to see where capitalism is headed or where it's going. Like when we let humanity crumble in the face of the almighty dollar and those evictions in that doc and just what's happening in one small town, but what's happening across the entire Rust Belt and continues to happen. Amazing documentary and an important filmmaker. So I wanted to give Michael Moore his due because this was a really important time for filmmakers.
This was a famous documentary. I didn't know Michael. I mean, he and Spike Lee were two filmmakers. I didn't know who they were, and they became very present in this moment.
Yeah,
like recognizably celebrated.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, would not be silenced.
Yeah. So Dan, where can people find you if they want to find you? What do you want to promote? Anything you've done? Anything you have coming up?
Yeah. Look, it's still important to go to Prime and watch Clean Slate.
Okay.
Which I got to showrun on.
Yeah.
Was with Simran Baidwan, who's was an amazing co-showrunner, and she's now EP on The Pit.
Oh wow.
And just killing it. And so, but that movie, that show. Norman Lear's final comedy, and it was fascinating because I've written stuff and been rewritten 500 times.
Sure.
I wrote a Jack Black holiday movie called Dear Santa, which, by the time this was a 19-year process, 3 different studios, like it was rewritten so much, and I'm not. It was my idea. I wrote the first drafts of it and all that. You never complain about something getting made because it's so rare that anything gets made. It's a wild process, but Clean Slate was a moment where it was amazing because I was very often the last words put in it, the last lines put in it, the last tweaks, the last jokes, the last thing. So it's very much my heart on screen. So please go to Prime Video and watch Clean Slate. It's only 8 episodes, a half hour. You could watch it in a good night, but it is a movie. It is a movie, excuse me. It is a show that believes in goodness. It believes in the human heart, being able to open wide anywhere, even in unlikely places. And it is in a very cynical, dark time.
Yeah.
A real heaping plate of stuffing and gravy and goodness, and much needed, I believe.
I believe too.
And yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram and Letterboxd, both of those Edward Clow. If you go on Vimeo, you can see some short films that I've done. If you go on Letterboxd, you could see my 1989 list where I rank all the movies from 1989, a lot of which we've discussed. You could also see a list where I rank the 10 Best Picture winners. Now that we've done all 10, you could see where Miss Daisy ranks in that. If you have any questions, you can send them to hindsightingquestions@gmail.com. If I get enough of those, I'll do a kind of a mailbag episode. Dan, I want to thank you. That was an incredible conversation, and I wanted to get you on this show for a while. I mean, we're young in our life of this show, but boy, did you deliver. So thank you so much. I want to have you back.
Anytime.
Next episode, Scott Frank and I return to 1981ers with the 12th James Bond flick, For Your Eyes Only. Till then, looking forward to looking back.